All right, just fuck it. Started. No, I haven't frozen. I'm fine.
All right, welcome to a tier list. It's been a while.
A tier list?
It's been a while.
Oh my god!
A very long while.
Feel old.
What? That's because you're 20, Harry. That's because you are old.
20s now, if anyone didn't know. I think we already said about it. So...
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Tom's here to provide valuable insights.
Me and Tyler have been old for ages.
Shut up.
Harry's recently joined the gang.
Yeah. We are, although we're older than everything we're going to be talking about today, at the very least.
Well, in what sense?
In the sense that the game's been out for like 5 or so years. And,
yeah, in that sense, yeah, sure. You're right. In any other sense, though. Well, actually, I wouldn't know if any of these guys are individually. I feel like cave angels are old. Like weird old men.
Yeah, like turtles, they live for like hundreds of years for no good reason.
Why is that for no good reason? What's wrong with you? Why don't you want...
Why do they live so long? How? And why can't anyone else? What's so special about them that means they're
just nicer than everyone else?
I guess.
They deserve more life.
Really likes tortoises.
Same with whales.
And whales, yeah.
Yeah, because they're just big, peaceful creatures. Unlike everything we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
Which is every enemy in Rock Galactic.
There wasn't variants, like biome variants, except for the bees. There were biome variants of the bees, but not of the actual fucking enemies.
Anyway, so this is going to be a tier list done in the form of just going straight at it, with no real gimmick. I don't even know if gimmick is the right word, but I said before, I don't think anyone's done an enemies tier list in this sense. It's always like how annoying they are, and that's it actually. But it's just that.
As well.
We have done that as well, but we thought it was high time, given not really the Rockbox enemies at all. They don't have much to do with that, although they have all been added since. But because finally got some actual new enemies,
establishing the idea and how effective that idea was implemented of the enemy.
Thank you, Thomas.
Is our goal, to...
So I'd establish it because in all of that fucking jabbering, Harry didn't manage to actually say the premise of the video.
That's kind of our thing, Tom. We jabber for like 5 times longer than need to and still not get to the point. But yeah, no. Basically,
You could argue that's infinitely longer than me.
Yeah. Was it... did they nail the idea? Was the idea good in the first place? And I don't know, I guess with a bit of gut feeling as well, in that, like, is this a piece of shit that's too strong at what it should be or too weak at what it should be? And I think that there are examples of both.
Or maybe because sometimes they've been like pretty well executed, but like we might not think that they should have been in the game in the first place. Like that type of enemy just shouldn't really exist, but they do. But did they do a shit job of it?
Yeah, I mean, probably for examples of all that kind of stuff, we just need to get to them. And I'm not sure how special of an example the Glyphid Swarmer is going to be.
The Glyphid Swarmer is, in my opinion,
concept great execution. Simple as. I mean,
moving on. No, it is very good.
The Swarmer.
Obviously, I think, like, generally speaking, they get one shot, right? They're fragile little ticks. And that was definitely the point.
Because then there's, like, some things that are...
It might just go
some things that are better at dealing with those and some things that are worse at dealing with those. Just creates a decent amount of diversity without actually increasing difficulty massively. Like Scout Scout has real problems, whereas when it's just grunts, he normally can actually quite cope.
Yeah,
right, but
it makes AOE and or things that attack in an area better.
Yeah,
because you can deal with these guys.
Because then it means that pure like single target damage isn't an effective idea.
Yeah. And yeah, obviously it throws a wrench in a lot of scout stuff. And engineer's not exactly in the clear either. Like his secondaries being AOE are often overkill.
Exactly. The swarm functions very well as like just basically just pestering you, but also being very easy to kill. Like you might hear about or see a swarmer and sort of think immediately that's kind of should be what like a grunt is, where you just get waves of the tiniest enemy coming at you. They're like the easiest thing to kill. But these things are meant to be. They sort of represent, I guess, ants more than anything else, and that they're just very small, very hard to kill. That's what makes them annoying.
Yeah,
and they're not strong, but they're not like easy to deal with all the time.
I would say that they're still strong enough to where they were not designed to be a little pest that just kind of like nibbles at you. They were designed to be able to kill you in numbers, right?
When there's enough of them, they fucking murder you.
Yeah, they tear you to pieces, right? They actually...
there's enough of there's always a lot of them. I don't know what you're saying about. Oh, there's a few going around. No, they have swarms where there's fucking hundreds of them.
Yeah, I don't know if you agree, but I think they're in general more dangerous than grunts in a vacuum. Genuinely.
Yeah, like no, I do think that like because like if we were to say
quicker and harder to hit, basically.
Yeah. And obviously, the pickaxes is a good thing as well that you have. But normally, you kind of there's too many to just pickaxe. Like the only real way that you can get through it without shooting, or like if you're a scout or an engineer where you don't really have shooting as an option, at least an easy one, is
unless you have a turret, like it's actually one of the best things.
Yeah, I guess vampire with like the pickaxe, and you can generally keep just a swarmer horde to a minimum, and they probably won't.
I don't see what vampires got to do with that.
Oh wait, not vampire. Thorns. That's the one.
Right. Okay. Yes, for sure.
With the two of those, you can generally deal with a single instance of only swarmers, without ammo and without losing health inherently. But otherwise, they'd get a bit spicy, especially if you don't have the means to deal with them well. But yeah, honestly, probably more than needed to be said with swarmers. But they're kind of a core part of the game in that there are a lot of other enemies in the game that are essentially swarmers but different, right?
Yes.
It is the idea of little fellas that, given numbers, can kill you.
So
right?
Okay, but you did mention that you probably said too much about them.
Numbers and not correctly dealing with them.
I think this is pretty easy A tier, but I don't know how it depends how strongly we feel. They should go up. I don't personally feel strongly enough, but I don't know if that's the right way to rate them.
I don't think they 100% nailed swarmers. I think there's still they could have made them smaller and more numerous, right? And I think that would have gotten the point.
I think they might have completely nailed it because there are other ways of like because there's tons of ways of implementation as well, isn't there? Which I also like. Like there's swarm and nests in the walls. There's brood nexuses. They spawn from dreadnoughts as well.
Brood nexus. Eggs in. Hold on. You mean the glyphid spawn?
Yeah, I think
that's not actually the same thing.
Shut up.
They got way less health Harry. As well. They got as in swarmers don't actually die to everything in one shot. Technically.
Yeah, I remember people complain about that with a Sabata, right? In that the Sabata can still not one-shot a swarmer, and people bitched and moaned about that. But
wasn't the problem that before the buff, though, even if you took one of the damage ups, you still couldn't? But now you can. Yeah. I think there's like 16 health up or 15, and then the green one's got 4. So there's nothing that's not one shot. Anyway.
Those green ones.
I'd say that would if it'd be better executed if they did have slightly less health. The fact that they're not one shot to all like single shot weapons is just silly.
Yeah. But
particularly when there could be like hundreds of them coming towards you. You shoot one with a Sabata and it won't die.
Like, it sounds like we're pretty in agreement, actually.
Yeah.
It's tiering, it's ranking, A tier.
Yeah.
Or May.
And this is hopefully the longest we will spend on a example like this.
I mean, this will hopefully be one of the easiest ones. The Glyphid Grunt
as well.
The Glyphid Grunt. Easy S tier.
Yeah.
Easy. Yeah. Just infinitely satisfying to kill. Well, it's strange, isn't it? They're only dangerous if they get the jump on you. Only. As in, even in massive numbers, they're not dangerous. They're just that's all that is. That's just potential dopamine. When I see a massive horde of grunts, that's all it is. Yeah. They're only dangerous when they get the jump on you, and even then, only because they add supplementary damage to other things that can like slow you down. They're not actually dangerous, and they're easy to hit.
Like, they are the
grunt. They are the grunt.
Yeah, they are like numbers in an army.
Grunt, which are called grunts in the army.
Yeah, like they just make the other enemies harder to find amongst the horde, and they give you more satisfaction. Like, they have the exact right amount of health, the exact right amount of armor, and like head hitbox and all of it, to where like everything you're running is satisfying against it. And they come in the exact right amount of numbers.
With them well, every single weapon.
Yeah. They're literally there to just keep the flow of combat satisfying. There's always going to be grunts to kill, basically.
And they are there as a universal thing that everyone can get and do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're just they fucking nailed the grunt.
Beautiful, and it's just a perfect design as well. Just iconic, it's so identifiable and like undeserving of any kind of change. He's gone without design change for 6 years. This is because he's without flaw. Very simple. I think since I'm just all in agreement, so I don't see any reason to waste time on it.
No, he's right.
He deserves our time, but
yeah, and I think the next guy, who is obviously built off of him, I would say nailed it as well. The
Glyphid Guard, Guard. Let's call him the Guard, not Grunt Guard.
The Guard is, I think, an S. I genuinely, because he is just a grunt that survives. And he does that 100% of the time, right? Like, he always just about survives everything. And obviously not much longer. He's not stupidly longer. But, like, you bomb a horde of grunts, the grunt guards are still there on low health, crawling through, right? If they're the front of the team, like, and this is why I think is S tier, you try and shoot it in the face and it blocks it with its arms. I'm sorry. But that was them knowing... It was built different, right?
It's interesting and it's very good at what it does in a way that is intuitive. It's always like satisfying to fight a guard, almost just as much as grunt somehow, even though they take a lot longer to kill. You never feel like, he's blocking. What am I supposed to do? Because to be honest, even though they do that, you can still just kill them if you just dump into them if you want. It's not always efficient. In fact, they sort of justify power attacks very well as well.
The only thing that could be better is if they did make the hole for hitting them when they're blocking just a little bit easier, like as in actually possible.
Well, no, you're not meant to shoot them then, or you're meant to stun them.
When I'm using AI Stability Engine on the scout, and he puts up his guard, now I do no damage unless it's a weak point, and his weak point has just become immortal.
No, you just power attack him. Just power attack it.
What if I don't have a power attack?
They are the
scout.
It's a guard. It begs for a power attack almost more than anything else.
Yeah. Plus, it does slow down, right? When it's guarding, it becomes less of a threat. Like, if there's other enemies, move on to the other.
Yeah, you should actually ignore it. I never thought about it that way.
But then there's just a bunch of guards sitting there, and I can't fucking get them.
Yeah, and then you power attack them because your power attacks come back.
I'm not saying it has to be really easy. Just like, can there actually be a hole so I can actually kill them?
Well, no, because that's when there's not meant to. You can
really, really difficult. But
if you can jump, can you not just shoot over it?
You can. It's not easy, but you can still hit the weak point when it's got its guard up. No, he doesn't try different things. I don't know. I mean, look, it was a very, very easy A tier once again. So
it's definitely, but like, in what it is supposed to do, does it not do it perfectly, if not slightly better? Like, they didn't have to make it block its face, right? They could have just made it slightly tankier with slightly better armor. They could have left it there. but they gave it the ability to block its own face, and that for me makes it deserve S.
It sounds like it's bringing it down for Tom. I mean, I don't disagree with you, and I don't really care for Tom's argument. So I think I'm going to put it in S.
Grunt Horde perfectly as well, right?
This isn't. I'm not feeling S too strongly, but I don't have a problem with being in S either. Unlike someone whose name starts with S, but certainly won't get into S, I don't think.
If we're looking at what their goal was, or at least what we theorized their goal was, the slasher was to be the damaging grunt, right? Like the one where if they, get you, then they kind of can get you.
Okay,
like,
do you mind if I jump the gun? I think we agree it doesn't really need to stun you. It doesn't.
No, not at all. I'm.
It's right. I think it's I think it just doesn't really function very because on Has 5, a normal grunt is just one grunt is enough to like kill you. They do a lot of damage. Everything does a lot of damage. So then a slasher is just excessive.
A slasher is literally you've lost. If you're kiting or just running around or just trying to survive on like anywhere less than full health or even full health in a horde, a slasher hits you once, you've lost. That's it.
And like sometimes you can't do much about it. Sometimes something just comes up behind you and there's nothing you could have done.
Boom. Plus, slashers are they quicker than normal? Or
well, see, okay, so no.
Right?
This is
they do their dash thing. You know, their fucking dash. That's ridiculous. Like they're like
slasher,
semi far away from you. Has a dash to catch up with you.
It needs at least one of its functionalities gone, and I think because it is faster than the others. Fastest grunt. So it's like I appreciate it, or at least I understand its role. It's sort of meant to encourage you to keep your distance, I guess. But then it's like you have to keep your distance, but you also can't run from it. Really, if you try and run, it's probably just gonna slash you.
Yeah, but if you don't run, they're probably still just gonna slash you. Because I mean, they're not that frail either, right?
Well, they're frail enough. I don't think they're too tanky.
Frail, yeah, but for how strong they are, they like because the whole like there's the grunt, there's basic enemy, and then there's just two variants of it: damage and health. That's what it is, isn't it?
Damage and defense.
Damage and survivability.
Yeah.
And the damage is the survivability of the guard is really fits well. It survives just as much as you'd want it to, but the damage of the slasher on hazard 5, because I don't think it's as excessive on other hazards. But that damage is just way too much.
I don't even care about the damage of the number, because it's not often that the slasher itself kills me. It's normally the stun. It's literally the stun.
That would be an easy way to make
an attack
far better.
If he gets that attack off, the entire horde will kill you. You will die. Yeah. You will be consumed. And it's just like, unless you have a dash and you time it right, like you don't time it before, you have to like wait until you get stunned, right? And so it can clear it. And it's just bad and unnecessary.
I think there was a time when it was okay, but I think we're past the time where the slasher is the one that like slow you down or disable you in some way.
I mean, I've said it once and I'll say it again. Like, if either of them should have had slash, it should have been the grunt guard, right? Because stun rather. It should have like he should have earned it.
Those stun use, then they can keep you in their range.
It would make sense if it is concussive, because you might have like a blunt attack, just like big fucking meaty claws.
Yeah.
But then when you
big meaty claws.
I think the slasher has faster attack speed as well.
Yeah,
well, probably, yeah.
Or at least it feels like it.
Like, I think that with the slasher, it would make more sense if he had like a bleed effect, right? Where
I was thinking about that,
he would hit you.
We probably don't need that either, Tyler. I feel like the grunts.
That's just like that'd just be a better idea than what we've got currently.
I feel like the grunts just don't need extra effects to put on.
Just get rid of the stun. I mean, I think also actually it's become, with the power creep of other enemies, it's become less relevant as well, because there's other threats now. Like, we don't need.
Yeah, well, I think for an example, and he's coming up soon, in the Glyphid area, there is now a Glyphid that has a significantly better melee damage and significantly better like AoE manipulation of the dwarf. And I think it's pretty clear what enemy that is. But like, I'm sorry, but the Glyphid Stingtail is just a better slasher, and we'll get to that. But like, it does exactly what the slasher
range
tries
slasher.
to do. Yeah, I guess. But, yeah, it's still. I don't know. It's annoying. And
Okay,
I
so
don't even think it should be in B. I think it should be a C. Like, I even question the purpose of a Glyphid that does damage. Like, it doesn't make much sense. Like
It's like the whole point is there's so many in a swarm that individually they're not a problem, but as a swarm they are a threat. Yet a slasher on their own still poses a threat if they're just on the wrong side, like behind you.
I'm gonna say something.
And then obviously has 5, then you can be like 7 fucking slashers in front of you.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something people might not expect me to say. They definitely don't make the game harder to play. Or, as in, they don't make me want to play it less, but they do maybe make the game worse. As in, I don't think they add anything but something that's a bit unfair.
They certainly take away fun.
Time.
Like so many times you're just playing, just having fun fighting, and then bam, you're just dead.
Yeah, it's like literally you're like kiting a horde, fighting for your fucking life. Slasher hits you, then you just slow to a halt, and you get mauled to death by a horde. Like the least fun way of dying, just a slow and painful death caused by a just immobilizing ability that you can't do anything about unless you picked a perk and have it dead.
Not nothing you could have done about it.
Yeah.
It's just like sometimes it just blends into the horde. It's just another grunt, but it's also just another grunt with some really annoying attributes.
Because being on like the back foot and like fighting for your life is fucking fun.
Yeah.
Like when you're being overwhelmed and you just keep on fighting.
When a slasher hits you, you're not on your back foot anymore. You're on
as you're slowly going down, like while you're just killing them. But then slasher just instantly just means that you're just gone.
Yeah. Nah. Fuck the slasher. Get rid of the stun.
Slasher.
And maybe add something more interesting, like how the grunt guard blocks his face. Maybe the slasher like does like a charge up spear attack or something.
They do that anyway.
Maybe he launches himself at you.
I guess. Maybe more interesting in a more dramatic way, essentially.
Yeah.
They lunge. But now the Ebonite grunt,
aka Captain Dopamine.
The absolute best.
It'll get pretty boring if these got. Actually, how do you feel about the idea of them becoming more generalized?
I want them to become a normal swarm type.
A swarm type.
No.
A swarm type is not a terrible idea, but it kind of is as well.
No,
as in,
good luck doing that swarm without Berserker.
Exactly.
Like, I'm sorry,
exactly.
But like I feel like honestly, the grunt guard, grunt guard, Ebonite grunt is doable because you can just actually pickaxe those guys, right? It's like 3 pickaxe hits and they'll go, and obviously 1 power attack. But the grunt Praetorian, or Ebonite Praetorian, which we'll get to, that would be deadly to encounter without a guaranteed berserker. So I think, I don't know, but ultimately it's not a normal enemy, right? It's exactly where it should be in a really, really fun machine event. Like one of, if not definitely the best.
Power attack pickaxes are so fun, and it just gives you berserker, and berserker's really fun.
Yeah,
and they're perfect enemies for that thing.
So, does the Ebonite grunt actually have any shortcomings in terms of its place?
Not really. It fits its role perfectly, right? It's just like those two are the exact type of enemies you would expect to encounter in a melee-only situation, right? And the only thing that could force that situation, and they do that role perfectly, right? As long as they don't take damage from anything other than melee, they don't fail at their role, right? So, yeah, no, they're S.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, that's all right. Let's go.
S is probably going to be quite bloated. In all fairness, I think that's something that needs to be stated. Is that they're often very good at game design, and this is essentially what we're rating it on, not like balancing, which they're a bit iffy of.
Yeah, I think balancing is harder, really, but it's fine because as long as they have some things that work, like you need to get most of it right in balancing, not all of it for it to be good.
Yeah.
But the actual enemies and like game design, they just do so well all the time, pretty much.
Yeah, with some
Slasher, I don't even think was that big of a problem. It was just that.
Because honestly, I mean, it's low down,
but gameplay changes with it.
Yeah, it slowed down, but ultimately it's still fine. It's just the worst of Deep Rock's high tier, right? Like if this was compared to other games, all of this would be in like
maybe
S
not the
tier.
worst.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. Warden, Clifford Warden, what a cool guy. What a fun, cool guy. What a lovely fellow.
I would say that as
it.
good as he is, he's not perfect. He's definitely not an S.
Well, no.
And I would say that because when a warden is like buffing an entire horde, you can still with relative ease kill that horde. He actually really doesn't screw you over that hard.
I think you'll. I guess that's something that would happen if you do it once and you realize it's not that bad. It's when you get used to it. But in general, the warden does a good job of making you feel like you shouldn't attack the other enemy. I don't.
Yeah,
it's definitely like, buffing them. I should probably focus on the warden. That feeling to go away.
Literally,
I know I can kill them, but I still want to focus on the warden.
Everything about him does say shoot me first, but ultimately, gameplay wise, you kind of don't need to. That's my thing. Is that his buff is not bad enough to where you should focus on shooting him instead of the glyphid that is about to attack you, right?
Well, no, that's true. But in any other situation, as long as you're not like in immediate danger, you probably should be focusing.
Yeah, you should, and the game points it towards that. But like ultimately, the buff isn't. If a warden's there, you're not screwed.
Fine.
It's tame. It's arguably too tame.
I wouldn't. I've never felt like it's too tame. I've never felt like the warden is bad at his job personally.
Because it does depend on the enemy. Like when it's all just grunts, doesn't really matter. But when it's like higher health enemies, it makes a difference.
The higher health enemies aren't dying instantly anyway. So what difference?
No, but then it means that you can't actually like kill them in any reasonable amount of time.
But it does stop the grunts from dying instantly.
Yeah, I think it works perfectly, considering how they're pretty common often. They seem to be one of those where it's like they're either in the mission or they're not.
Yeah.
But when they are, I mean, like that time when we found fucking like 6 of them in a tunnel. Like, I think
that was so weird. They were just inside each other.
They provide something to the game that they do well, and it's not too strong. And if it were too strong, it would be a problem.
Because it wouldn't be
in pair with everything else, it would be impossible. And yes, you'd be like, oh well, I want to target them because they're such a problem then. But targeting them isn't always easy because they're surrounded by bugs and they are like...
No, but it is though. I'm sorry, but it is specifically designed to be easy to kill even amongst enemies. His weak point was put on a plateau above all the enemies around him. Like only if like there was a wall or like a Praetorian in the way would it be difficult to hit.
All right, then I have to agree with that.
Like he's perfectly designed to be a thing that you are basically always able to kill if he's there, with relative quick ease. I just very often, and I'm sure, like you notice it as well. Don't bother until the end, and he's just on his own.
I don't. I bother. It's always my priority.
Scout perspective, I can't kill them unless I kill the warden.
Yeah, and the warden is incredibly
easy to kill. The game is
for all
the characters, not just the ones that have crowd clearing abilities. Because if I'm targeting my ammo on grunts that are being buffed by a warden, I'll run out of all my ammo in that just those 5 grunts.
Yeah, for scout it makes sense, but for everyone else it's kind of necessary.
This is a take I've never heard about the warden, Tyler, and I'm kind of
again, you're looking at it in just like there's just the warden and a swarm, but there never is there? It's like, what if there's a warden and a swarm and then all the other fucking shit that goes on?
Then I wouldn't be shooting the warden first. Still, would I?
Well, if it's more than just glyphids, I'll prioritize everything else.
Like a spitballer, then I'm shooting that. Yeah, or like any of the other stuff. Like I don't know. More often than not, warden, I'm not frothing at the mouth to kill. I'll take him if he's right there in front of me, sure. Like, and he's like the only thing there. But like, I don't find his buff that big of a deal more often than not.
Massive bigger deal, then it would be a problem because
it wouldn't be a problem.
I think one of the problems they've got at the moment is there's too many things that are too big of a deal. That then when they all happen at the same time, you're fucked.
Yeah, but have you ever lost because of a warden? He has never been that big of an issue, has he?
Kind of. Like
no, I don't think he has. And I don't think these types of enemies are meant to be that either.
Wait, you want me to explain the fucking reason? Shut up, Harry, you fucking bitch.
I don't want you to.
When you're being cornered by a warden and a bunch of enemies, and you like Praetorians or whatever, you can't kill them in time.
Cornered.
Well, two things. You're in this situation. Are you still scout? Because
no, I'm just saying it as general.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's impossible to get out of, but it does provide a problem. That problem isn't excessively dangerous, but it shouldn't be.
People don't realise how safe you are more often than not. You know, you're first of all scout, leave, gunner, drop shield. Driller, your drills are actually very good at just fearing everything around you, genuinely. Don't underestimate that. It's not great still. Engineer, you're fucked. I hope you got dash. But then, obviously, you probably have dash on everyone anyway, which just speaks to how overpowered dash is. I don't know. But either way, I still think the Wardens are very, very okay in their place in the game. I don't think they are a problem.
Good, but I think the buff could be slightly stronger to make you want to prioritize it more. Because as it stands right now, you can kill it easily, but ultimately I think it's easier to kill than it is worth killing.
I'll agree with that because I don't need it anyway, but I guess if there's anyone who doesn't prioritize it, then they should. So I already prioritize it anyway. Basically means I wouldn't care if the buff was stronger. That's what I'm saying. So
prioritize it in general though, because it just increases ammo efficiency going for it, even if nothing else. And it increases the ease of speed of killing the horde.
All right, whatever. Why Tom, let's try and put a pin in this. Tom, what would you actually rate? Yeah. What rating would you actually give it? A. I was thinking that's my first one.
It's well done.
I just didn't want I just didn't think it was an S.
No, definitely not an S.
Well, Tyler, I wasn't gonna.
Is literally like flawless in every single way. It's just the best fucking thing.
Yeah, Wardens are they're good at their job and they're satisfying to kill as well. They are a notable addition to the swarm. They're not a fucking oh no, it's all over.
Yeah. And I like those just basic notable additions. They're fine.
Yeah, it feels like the Warden would have been one of those, and not one of those. I would say more like we have to kill them now. Oh god, for example, like a Trijo or something, right, or a stingtail, which is the next.
But when there's a lot of those type of enemies, I think it just becomes too much.
It's surprising that the Warden isn't one of those, right? An enemy that doesn't attack and buffs everything in the area is normally the exact type of enemy you would define as, oh god, we have to kill that quickly. And it just kind of isn't that in this game. And it's fine that it isn't, but I would say that if you don't want too many...
In the current climate, it wouldn't be better if it wouldn't be better if it was changed to be that in the current state of the game.
I mean, it'd be cool if there were super rare, very strong Wardens.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah,
an elite warden that has double the strength of the buff.
Yeah, but it'd increase their damage as well, make them super soldiers.
That'd be a different type of warden. That would have to be a boss almost. That basically just summons a swarm.
It'd be like a mini boss. It'd be like this super. It'd be rare, really rare.
Hiveguard, but better.
No, that could be a Dreadnought. A Dreadnought warden.
It makes whatever's near it super fucking strong. So then it completely depends on the circumstances and how strong it's going to be. And it wouldn't happen during a swarm, I don't think, or it could be its own swarm, its own event that would just happen randomly.
Yeah, it sounds like an awesome event. So.
That'd be awesome. But having a really strong warden regularly, I wouldn't like, and I don't think would work.
I think there is. I think this comes down to. I think the warden is actually fine. I also think there's room for another type of warden. Whether that does something different or it's just a lot stronger. I think that's better than making the current warden stronger. I think there's room for another one, basically. We don't have anything. I'd love to see it. So, I think we can put a pin in it, though, right?
Yeah. A. I think we all agreed on A, but we had different ideas of what the ranking system was.
All right. Okay. First, what would you call it? I don't know.
I think the slight issue with this is I think Harry, you and me, we kind of have had enough experience with it, but I feel like Tom is still on the first opinions kind of level. The Glyphid Stingtail, Tom, how do you feel about that?
I agree. I've not had enough experience to. They're just I don't know how to deal with them. Haven't dealt with them much.
So the problem
they're really irritating and. I think there should be a longer cooldown on their grabbing.
Yeah, I have a couple issues with the stingtail. I think probably the biggest one
not necessarily maybe longer cooldown in general if they miss, but if they actually grab you, I don't think they should literally
if it misses, it should stick itself to the floor
again.
if it misses, it should get stuck in something. If it misses, and it have to rip its thing out. That's the cooldown. It's like trying to rip the tail out, and you could even sever it or something. I don't know. My biggest problem with it is that I still don't know how to deal with it particularly, apart from just unloading to it, and that doesn't feel great. I still just feel like I have to just unload on it. I don't know any particular. I know where its weak points are, but I still don't feel like there's a particular way to deal with it. Like, for example, I think the obvious thing that could almost placate everyone's concerns and make it far more fun to fight is if you could destroy the tail itself. That's a big thing.
Or disable it by shooting it. Like, disable it temporarily. Like, you just shoot the tail a little bit and it will, like, then...
I think you could disable either parts, right? I think that would be fair. And if you disable both, by that point it would be dead, right?
I just think it begs for a way to stop it from grabbing you without just having to kill it. It's such a priority target, but I think that would make it far more interesting. Is if you could make it not a priority target, but it's still like alive. I think that would be far more interesting.
And then actually doing damage to them. Wouldn't it be kind of cool if you could actually like if they did it for even like all of them, or at least some, where depending on where you hit them and like what damage you did, it would actually like have an effect on the enemy. So if you shot their legs a bunch, they would slow down a little bit.
It's like far too late.
It's too late to do. I feel like the thing is, it's not too late when it's a new edition. I felt like that was a very worthy thing to have done in development. It's possible they considered that. Very possible they didn't. But that's something to me that would really bring it up. Aside from that, though, it's not like I don't hate it. As in, I don't see it and I'm like, oh god, it's all over. But its presence is definitely felt. It's definitely felt. And I think first of all, I want to just give credit to Ghost Ship in a game that already has a very fast enemy pool. They did actually add something that has a genuinely unique place in the roster in terms of what it does. Genuinely. In fact, both of them do. Actually, we'll get to the spreader, but that surprised me over the recent days, pretty much. Stingtail it does stand out. It's not just a grabber. It's not just a slasher. Like we talked. In terms of actually its idea and execution of the idea, is very, very commendable.
Yeah, but I would say that where it currently sits, B is probably where it's going to stay. I think that there are parts of it that definitely could have been better. There are parts of the concept which could have been a little bit better, to be honest with you. Like, maybe it should have only have ever been able to pull you once, right? So it throws you into the unfavorable situation. It deals its attack, and then from then on, it becomes like another melee, and you're in a bad situation. But as it stands right now, it's essentially a like movement spammer, where it just keeps pulling you into wherever it is in unholy situations and screwing you over with little cooldown and little care and like smart about it or whatever. Like, if it was more of a...
There's no counter either. There's no, like, smart way to play around it. It's just try and kill it and hope that it doesn't get you.
Yeah, it feels like a bit of a not stingtail. It is stingtail. A tri-jaw.
Getting real strong stingtail vibes from this guy.
Yeah, it feels like a tri-jaw where you have to kind of know the code on how to deal with them to make them tolerable. And even then, it's not a flawless. It's not a perfect experience, especially when there's more of them.
Because the tri-jaw counter pretty much only works in a vacuum.
You're able to do stuff about it. Like, they need to be counterable. Like, that's the whole point of the game, is that you do win, but it's just that it's hard to. You need to know how to beat them and play correctly to win.
But as it stands,
against the Stinger, you can't really do that. Sometimes
as it stands,
situation dictates you lose.
Will definitely pull you at least once. It definitely will.
Exactly. I think that's the problem. It's very hard to prevent it from being a problem. It always becomes a problem.
Power attack when you're in its grasp and it'll drop you.
Or power attack the tail itself to send it stop it from attacking.
Damage its tail or to make it and just reduce the cooldown.
It is a very sneaky guy. Like he will grab you more, like probably about 50% of the time before you even know know where he is.
Because like the
you
Warden,
know he's there.
The Warden
you don't
is
know
so
where
obvious.
he is.
You see him all the time.
Yeah.
Like Praetorians, whatever, they're obvious, but that guy, he just merges in with the Horde, and it's such a powerful ability to pull you in.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, he's
it's not used liberally. Like that really strong thing is used just too liberally. I mean, I used the wrong word.
There's always one. There's always one. Like literally, like sometimes two, in like a swarm. And with the way the game does work, you are essentially guaranteed to be screwed over by one at least once if you're in a mission with a stingtail. Like it's just occurred. Every single game I've been in a stingtail, they've either pulled me into a detonator, a Praetorian that's like spraying or radiating in an area, pulled me into just a normal horde, or pulled me up and I've taken a bunch of full damage.
That's why I love them. That's their unique function. It's just the fact that you can never stop. Even if you're very aware of its existence, it's almost always going to get you.
Yeah. And I think maybe
power attack, like know it's going to grab you. You can't kill it in time because it's like surrounded. The only thing you could do is time a power attack, and you could like hit the power attack as it's grabbing you, and that will stop it from doing it.
Yeah. Maybe something like, but like something like that, where like
it be like an actual grabber. You know, you shoot them and they drop you.
I've seen people say like, why doesn't heightened senses work against stingtail stuff? Oh, I think it's quite easy to tell. No, it shouldn't work. It wouldn't be useful. It lets you go instantly. It's stupid.
Well, the thing is, no, it wouldn't though, because I think it should work because you don't have to use heightened senses.
You could use it just to insta kill one if you want.
yeah, you could, but also you could not do that if you don't think it's worth it. But if you can tell that he's putting you into your definite death, boom, heightened senses. The only issue is that would increase heightened senses uses, and it's already up there.
I think it's like basically, it really is up there, especially like for a solo play. Like heightened, it's either going to be heightened senses, or if I have any level of confidence, I'm going to spot leeches. I'll take Beastmaster because I don't need anything else. Just dash and heightened senses every time. I don't even need these guys to.
And that's why we need a perk rework, because that's not healthy.
Oh yeah. So many of them feel like things that you should just inherently have. That's the problem.
It is true, yeah. But dash is certainly out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think the stingtail, the concept was good, not perfect, and the execution was good, not perfect. I think it was both sides was a shout, but not a perfect one.
It's just good.
Yeah.
Just good. That doesn't mean, which obviously means it has things that could be improved, but it's also not like a fucking open wound. I think there's some things that would help it a lot. Some people really do hate them though, which is a strong argument for like changing things. There are people who fucking hate them. Although at the same time, we still fucking hate the slasher. But you know,
and
I mean, I don't personally.
Like, it's hating things is nothing new.
No, I don't hate. I don't hate the Glyphid Praetorian. My best friend, Glyphid Praetorian.
S. He uses S.
No.
Fuck off.
No, actually.
No, I forgot. The spray is wrong.
Not anymore.
No, it's still bullshit though.
It's still a bit of pain.
Bullshit. Like they've made it accurate. They've made it visually accurate to what it is, but what it is too fucking wide. It's stupid.
It's way too wide. It's like anything in front of it is just done now.
Yeah.
And it
grazes you, and that's it for like the next couple seconds.
Grazes you, it's ridiculous. It's just so fucking. It's too
much. But in terms of actually taking it down, it's such a comfortable tank enemy in that you never feel like you can't handle it, but it's still very much so a tank. And I think it's very well executed in that
problem, which isn't that bad really, it's fine. So I think it's an A.
Yeah, well, I think that is the issue. Is it's a tank, or at least it's supposed to be a tank, but it does too much. It has too much killing potential to be a tank, essentially.
Well, it's sort of a mid-range tank. It's not a true tank. That's why it's.
The damage is fine. It's just that the application is wrong.
Hybrid. He's DPS and tank.
Yeah.
But
it's just slow as fuck. So it is a struggle applying that, or should. But it doesn't have a problem applying that when it's.
Well, it's just very.
It's a fucking shotgun blast that goes way too far as well. Like either have it at
it's
range
such an unfair one
at,
as well.
or at width instead of width and range.
Yeah, and literally, it's like you don't. It's not even if you spend time in the spray, but if you get grazed by it, you then take essentially the same damage you would take by being in the middle of it, right? Like
the fact that we still don't truly hate them after all this time as well. They're just a very comfortable part of the game. Very comfortable tank to deal with. Very comfortable step up from just grunts, and
it is.
They feel good to look at.
It is worth mentioning its variants in the, I mean, I think it's got the most of it, right? It's got the most variants in the game.
Yeah, if you include
the radioactive one's great. I like the
rad one's a bastard, but I do appreciate it. Really
changes. It is a genuine change of the enemy.
The frost one is pretty much the same, but
frost one's a fucking wet paper towel.
It is literally it's just a nothing. It's just a bag of hot air, but not hot air. Cold
Go to the Gate of Strata. One thing I think about the Gate of Strata when it comes to enemies is like, I don't have to worry about Praetorians at all. They just don't do anything. They just don't even do damage. Exactly. Freezing's fine, but they don't earn not doing. They should still do damage genuinely. As in, that's me saying you can buff the Frost Praetorian because he's just a weak piece of shit. He doesn't deserve to be a weak piece of shit. But the rad one is probably harder. It is obviously just different, but it is harder. It's faster, and its attack is different, which can result in it being harder depending. Because I always just try and dance around them to get to the back. You can't dance around them as close. You can't do that with the radioactive one. You can't do that. Yeah, so it is interesting, and I think that as well. Obviously, we have to rate him in 1 because we don't actually have variants here. I think that helps his case. I think it's a very strong A, although with a arguable close to major issue. But still an A. He's just that well designed visually. Most other departments apart from his attack. Even the cloud is pretty perfectly implemented as a way to sort of like you can be sort of disruption to your line of sight, a bit of areas and denial, but you can also use it to your advantage. It works very well.
When you set on fire, that's great.
Which I think is another reason why he shouldn't have high killing potential, because ultimately there is an argument for keeping them alive, right? Like that's kind of sometimes their cloud is going to be worse than they are when they're alive, except probably not because of how strong his kind of spray is.
Yeah, I wish it was a bit more caustic. If it was close range, like maybe instead of a spray, I don't know, or just we could just make it weaker, closer range, but. It's not just spat it onto the ground instead of like a long range spray. I don't know.
Maybe just like vomited instead of just sprayed.
Yeah, I don't know why it's got like that shit in. Just as the natural evolution of the glyphid, suddenly they become filled with poison.
Yeah,
a bit weird, a bit odd if you ask me. Next up, anyway, I think we're not going to move him from A. So the Ebonite Praetorian is not quite, in my opinion, not quite as good as the grunt. But also weird. It's like it's 2-shot if you have the damage up on your power attack, but it's 3-shot if you don't. And I don't know what to make of that.
I think they are still S because I think that game mode would be boring if it was only the grunt ones. They needed something slightly harder and slightly different to spice it up, and I think the Praetorians did a good job of that. Because ultimately, they kind of are sometimes difficult. Like they will kill you, right? They'll fucking do it.
They'll do it. They'll do it.
You go to pickaxe them and you run out of the thingy and they just hit you and you go down like a sack of shit. I don't know. I think they're still ultimately perfect for what they are in that small little bubble of Ebonite machine event.
All right. Yeah, I think sure. No issues with that. Tom? All right, cool.
I think
brevity.
What? Brevity? What?
Oh, classic Harry not knowing what words are.
No, I know what that means. That's the only thing we heard, though.
You literally heard the last half of your final word you said, probably.
Why does it keep doing that? Do you think it's just not picking me up in the first place?
I think you need to start
down. You're too quiet.
Yeah.
I'm talking the exact same as I normally would. My mic is in the same place. Actually, I moved it closer because of that. No, I was just saying I was hanging back on that one for brevity.
All right.
But there's not much to say.
That doesn't help. We're waiting there. We're just waiting for you to say something.
Complete opposite effect.
Anyway, Clifford Oppressor.
Yes, yeah.
My favourite man. I love him. I love him so much. Do we even need to discuss it? I mean, because people might disagree with us, but
it was perfect that they implemented it as well for the counter of bunkering.
Not that it is 100% good at that role, though.
Well, no, because it shouldn't be just because you're bunkering and the oppressor shows up, it's an instant loot. It's a bit of a discourage. It just makes the bunker a bit less safe when they show up. Yeah. The detonator is the true bunker count, for being honest.
Yeah.
Not the oppressor. But the oppressor is just it's just beautiful. It's a perfect tank, actually, is what it is, basically. Or it's a very weird tank. I don't know how many tanks do this, where they basically have, like, not even like it's in phases. He's just invincible from the front and vulnerable from the back. And it's just incredibly satisfying to fight. You sort of just lead him around and wait for him to start attacking.
And the fact that you can
just jump
actually hit them from the front, though, if you use, like, power attacks. And it's also perfect that Berserker is, like, the exact amount of pickaxe hits you get in Berserker is enough to kill an oppressor as well.
Yeah. And the reason why they're perfect tanks is because they're not that lethal.
Yeah, he's an example of what I was saying. But yeah, like, a tank shouldn't really be killing you that often.
Like, actually hits you like point blank with his just smack with it.
Doesn't do much.
Hurts.
Pretty bad, but it's not even that bad. He's more the sense of disrupt your movement.
A lot, but it's not ridiculous, but it's certainly a lot.
I seem like even though they take a lot, they take ammo, but you can tell it's a good tank because even though it takes a lot of ammo, they're still on their own. They're not actually a threat, which is sort of how it should be. They're sort of there to they're very hard to focus on when it's in a swarm, and they will have a noticeable effect. And also, they just look awesome.
You have to keep the distance and focus everything else until you can deal with it. Otherwise,
something we might want to put into words now, because this might help a little bit. But like, the only enemies that alone should be a threat are bosses. If they're not a boss and they alone are a threat, then they're kind of too strong.
Well, the stingtail is one that's almost a threat on its own.
Yeah, I think that's why it's slowed down, and the same with the stabber.
Slasher. It's not truly a threat on its own, though. You can see it. He's not going to get you. He's not going to
get you. The point is that you need to counter them and play them correctly, but then the only times that things should actually just straight up be a problem is when they're like bosses or mini bosses or like.
Or they are them on their own is the issue.
When they're like too slow to really be like a detonator. It happens. It's not a boss. It's. I mean, it is kind of. It hasn't got a health bar boss, but they are a massive threat. But again, they're
them
so
on their own are often not a big deal.
Well, then Baltisty can go either way. Usually, it's not going to be a problem, but sometimes it is. Sometimes.
Yeah, they catch you off guard, but
it mainly depends on what kind of mission you're doing. Actually, the detonator, which I don't think is a detonator's problem. Anyway, I think obviously we know we're all in agreement on the oppressor. We've given a couple points. Like we think it's great. We'll let the people decide if we're right. By the way, next though is another a real old head, the Glizzy Dreadnought, as I prefer to call him, rather than Glyphid Dreadnought. OG Dreadnought have a distinct name, which I guess makes sense.
He doesn't really have a distinct, he's not really an archetypical boss either, really, is he? Like the other two, they really play to some basic classic boss types, but this guy's just a big Praetorian, right?
He really is just a Praetorian upscaled into a boss, basically. Yeah. I don't know how I feel. I personally definitely feel an A, but that's just me.
A for sure. I would not say yes.
I don't think I would.
And I think this is kind of, I'm not. It's difficult because the Dreadnoughts should not be viewed as like bosses of their own, kind of, because they're not designed to on their own carry an entire game mode, right? That's the point of
anymore.
3 of them. And obviously they redesigned, but they rejigged this Dreadnought to suit that, right?
Well, yeah, because the thing is about eliminations is before sort of the rework, and the rework is the addition of the other 2 of the game mode. it used if the Dreadnought was exactly as it is now before we got the other two, that game mode would suck so much dick. The only reason it didn't suck is because you could cheese them, and it was sort of just like an opportunity for you to just abuse something. And then and obviously after that, it turned into an actual pretty good, like, sort of not a boss rush, but sort of a multi-boss mission type. It works quite well in that sense now. So the original Dreadnought did not, or at least this Dreadnought would not carry it on its own now.
These bosses are not 100% bosses. Not that they're not bosses, but it's like they cannot be 100% of a boss fight because everyone will be drained by the first fight of that mission, right? They have to kind of be a bit of a half a boss fight, just a bit cliche, a bit what it is, fairly simple, not many moves, like move sets, and then just kind of so you can then move on to the next one, which I think I will bring up.
That Dreadnought basic one went from being a absolute fucking piece of garbage to being pretty damn good now.
Yeah. His attacks, I mean, they're like fairly simple, right? He's very quick. He's probably the quickest one, right? He's very quick. He runs up to you, and like that does the area killing, which is incredibly deadly unless you eventually get used to not getting.
I would say it's the only attack of this. That's the only part of this one that borders on a bit bullshitty.
Yeah, he doesn't display his area
quite
amazingly.
Right. Yeah, it's not that hard to actually get away from, but it's still, the inaccuracy is still felt. As you know, I pretty much only get killed by it when I never think I'm going to. It doesn't happen often, but I'm still not anticipating. That's the only thing. Apart from that, it's got a good range of attacks.
Shoot it out of his fucking ass. Like, that was just.
Yeah, which
he's just looking at someone else. Yeah, they fixed it, and that's why he's fine now. Like, I don't know about A. I don't know about that.
I think I do. I think I'm quite confident in that. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just.
Like, are you looking at him at I think a too high a goal?
Yeah,
where he's supposed to be
mostly
the boss fight instead of just A.
It's not, but it's mostly fairly like designed. He's very aesthetically, he's very good. It feels like a Dreadnought. It feels like a glyphic unit.
He does it. He does what he's supposed to, but it's just not his remnants of the old game, which had less shit, and the new boss fights, the new Dreadnoughts are more interesting to fight.
Well, I do find myself welcoming it. It's just because I do find it noticeably more simple to fight, and it's a bit more comfortable experience. But it's a very strong A for me. It's not an S, but it's a very strong A.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'm gonna move it. I'll say A. It's just he's a bit boring, but I think he's supposed to be.
I wouldn't call it entirely boring, anyways. It's a fight.
It ends up being that if you've got more than one player's just like gets his aggro, everyone shoots him from behind.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Well, I think it's still a lot of different builds work against him though as well. Actually, I'm always surprised at how many do. I think the prior one recently, I just would never have anticipated as a temp to Dreadnought. But it's not that oppressive to play styles, really, the way that we used to maybe think it was. Still, the flavour is still a terrible pick. It's a bit unfortunate.
With Dreadnought,
that's the same with all of them. It's not really worth bringing up.
Actually,
it kind of is.
They're not driller friendly.
Yeah, well, bosses as a whole often aren't.
Yeah, and
actually,
I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or not with the game, because it just the only problem with it is it does mean that mission type, that whole mission type, is just kind of quite bad now. Like, really just unplayable sometimes for that character.
I don't think so. No, because there's multiple builds that exist where you can do it just fine.
I think Hiveguard's great, because Hiveguard is so good for driller, just because of the fucking satchels on that. Getting rid of that armor instantly is just.
And the sentinels being normal enemies. Yeah, it's a lower yield of builds than everyone else, but he still has multiple builds where you are just as good.
I think first of all, the sludge pump as a whole still works. That's perfectly fine against them, right? The sludge pump, no matter what build, is usable. Then your cryo cannon, you can freeze them, as Harry points out.
Even in solo, it's still
shock or ice spear, right? And it really just comes down to the flamethrower. There's literally, with the flamethrower, you're doing pathetic damage over a pathetic amount of time, and that's all you're doing.
Yeah, the only thing is you can obviously, like the others, you can still damage it from any angle, and although sentinels can be set on fire, I guess.
Yeah. And the secondaries all work as fine as they would normally, generally. And so it really just comes down to flamethrower, which is still a bad thing. They shouldn't prevent any weapons from being useless. That's foreshadowing for a later boss. But like,
the overclock is supposed to make them viable in the ways that they're not originally viable in.
Yeah. Which is, you would hope face melter works better, but it's kind of still doesn't really. It doesn't do enough damage to warrant picking it over the Sludge Pump or another character at least, And plus, if you look at linearly just weapons, and it's still fine, but clearing the terrain with the drills makes those boss fights easier for everyone, right? That's kind of another thing. All that
actual
stuff.
charges are good as well.
Yeah.
So ultimately,
he is weak at that game mode, but it's no worse than Scout in an oil refinery, and everyone loves oil refinery and doesn't think it needs changing. But Scout is essentially unplayable. At least the difficulty of that mission goes up exponentially.
If you only for one with a lack of imagination. Anyway,
or the lack of terrain giving you anything to work with.
I've got.
It was like, if you're like solo on like an oil refinery and it's like, oh, someone's joining, and then they're Scout, you're like, oh.
Well, that's not that bad. As long as you aren't also a Scout.
Scout is Scout. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with having a Scout on your team. You can still, you can find a pump jack real easy, and that's it. Whatever. I'm not talking about mission types. That's only going to happen once we get another one. Oh my god. Anyway, the hiveguard. I put him in there, and I don't know the hiveguard.
Hiveguard, a lot of people don't like. A lot of people don't like. In fact, I would say that as far as consensus goes, and probably what Ghost Ship would look at, Hiveguard was probably a bad boss fight.
So Tom's got the S, and I have a suspicion. So this isn't going to mean it's terrible, but I think it's the worst of the three.
Yeah.
How's it the worst?
It has 3 stages. But that's like sounds good, right? That it's like 3 stages.
It doesn't. The truth is, it doesn't need 3 stages. The Sentinels are its shield stage.
Yeah,
it should be.
You do those 3 stages like 3 times each, right? It really should be that like you do the first stage. Eventually, you get it down to like you get rid of a third of its health, and then it moves on to the second stage, and those stages are kind of how it works. But even then, not that like it is. Only ever has like 1 attack in each stage, and that attack is always kind of boring / bullshit.
I guess except the Sentinel stage, because hold on, because it can always just slash you. It can always just slash you, and in the Sentinel phase, it still shoots fireballs. It has the Sentinel. So I think the Sentinel phase is easily the best one. The shield stage is kind of nice because some things feel good to use against it, like Driller Satchels, but sometimes they still get in awkward positions. Like the 2 side ones can be pretty annoying to hit sometimes. And the triple fireball shot can be pretty gnarly. But actually, that's not an unfair attack. The next stage has got the most bullshit attack out of probably all of them, and he's just really hard to hit. Where he like turns while attacking and stuff. There's a problem with pretty much every phase, and also the fact that he's still kind of not bugged, but it's still kind of a bit weird. With, like the Sentinel sometimes just taking time to spawn. Yeah, it's a bit frustrating.
And I think this is something I want to point out. All of those things. Have you noticed how often you are not fighting a boss during a Hiveguard boss fight, right? The other 2, how often are you standing around there? With the twins, when they're healing. With the other one, when they're like, chasing someone else. With the Hiveguard, you spend so much of the time waiting for him to change his stages, waiting for him to turn the right way and get out of the fucking terrain, or waiting for like the Sentinels to come get you. It is a so like poorly what's the word? Like timed boss fight, like paced boss fight.
Counterpoint. It laughs. Counterpoint.
What?
It laughs.
It does laugh.
It does laugh. Yeah. Remember that? That was awesome. That was like one of the coolest moments. Yeah. In terms of like us getting into like paying attention to Deep Rock's like updates and stuff, and that clip of like the Hiveguard. It's Screech. That was so fucking
It was just the
badass.
audio, wasn't it? Like the
Yeah.
new Dreadnought, and then they played like the audio. Yeah, but like ultimately, and I think its design's fine. It is just that there is a lot of jank with his boss fight, like so
It
much jank to
probably
the point
is
where
the
there was a
jankiest
season
one.
where like it literally had a chance to just stop working and like hard block
that still
your mission.
happens like very rarely. Some people have encountered that. It might be
Yeah.
completely quashed by now, but still, like he's got issues on both sides of like gameplay and on the technical level, and I think it's almost like I don't know. He's not.
I don't
decent.
think.
He's
And
actually.
I want to state
fine.
this because I hate the people that say this.
Hates them.
Elimination is no worse a mission because of the hiveguard. It's not that bad, right? Like it's not. I'm not gonna turn down elimination.
It's not actually bad. I think
awkward.
B is my ranking.
Yeah, I guess I would probably put him in C myself though.
Well, I think I put B and Tom put him in S still apparently.
Yeah, so I guess
I don't know if he's changed the tune or he's given up. I don't know.
Did you agree with any of our points there, Tom?
I get what you're saying, but I like having the boss fights being very, very different experiences.
That's good.
Is this so it's just how different the hiveguard is from the other boss fights is why you like it?
Well, it's just pure like it is a lot slower paced. It is just working with his stages. Like sometimes the normal Dreadnought one can just be a lot of running around, and the twins one is just kind of like a bullet hell sometimes, particularly when they're targeting you. It's just fighting for your fucking life until other than their healing, like constantly trying to target correctly. But I just like that it is a bit more chilled out.
Yeah, but it's not chilled out on purpose. That's the thing.
No, I don't think it is. I think this really does round out to a B though. Yeah. Need to leave him there and move on because we got to tackle the other two. The boys, the twins.
This is why
Arby and Lassie.
I was going to say this is why I wanted it in C because I would say the old Dreadnought is A, twins B, hiveguard C, but obviously that's not quite how it's gone down. But then again, I feel like the twins are probably just as good as the old one. Really, I think they're fine. They're good. They're a good twin boss, right?
Twins are. I think the twins are pretty. Well, just really well designed in general. I think they have some issues, but also not really. I don't think they have many issues. I think it's just very difficult sometimes. I wouldn't truly call it bullshit.
When they dig onto you and then one-shot you.
What?
Yeah, well, I mean, I
am underneath you.
I've never had a problem with that.
You didn't know that was going to happen. There was no way of predicting it.
Yeah, there is because you have enough time to move. You notice the digging effect. Jump out. I've never had this.
Harry, you notice how you just said notice the effect.
Yeah.
That is something that Tom has never done in a game.
All right, well, that's his problem. It's all telegraphed pretty well. And also the healing aspect is kind of carries
it. It's a bit
though.
janky.
No. I think it's one of the best aspects of the fight. It's not well communicated in some ways, in terms of as in how exactly it works. But I think once you understand it, it makes the fight a lot more engaging because that's how you control the flow of the fight. As in, either have it go down smoothly and not have them heal because you don't want them to, or you could even choose to force them to heal, take a resupply. It's actually very interesting that you might want something. Yeah, I think it's really cool that you might want to force them to do it. I actually really like that. That's a thing that is sometimes a good idea. Makes it really cool.
It's not really a downside it kind of is. It's less ammo efficient to do it, but it does mean that when they heal, they don't heal to full, do they? They take off some of the health of the one with more health. So you've still done
net positive, but
it is a net positive. Well, it's a net positive from the healing, but it's still a net negative overall. You've still done damage. If you treat them as like one health bar, you've still done damage.
No, but some of your ammo went to waste. You could also say
yes, and it's interesting that is another thing that they have
Yeah,
the ability to heal in general, which is, I don't know. I think it's pretty great.
I think there could be a little better implementation though. Like I think the fact that like when you kill one, the other one does like some sort of revenge move. I think the Arbalists one is pretty solid, as in I get killed by it constantly. It's ridiculous and it pisses me off, but ultimately it's solid. The Lacerators one is entirely unnoticeable and is not worth talking about.
No, it's good that way. It's 100% good that way, because the Lacerator is the one that typically, unless you're targeting it, you'll kill first and do the most damage to, because of it's the close up one,
and
whereas
then
the
you
Arbalist
get
is further away.
punished.
So now, more likely, you're going to be dealing with the hardest next phase. However, if you're smart about it, you can make sure you target the Arbalist and kill them first, to then skip dealing with the Arbalist's revenge stage. So it's like an added layer, and most of the time people do deal with the Arbalist stage because they kill the last.
Personally, I feel like they should be equally deadly. It just depends on which one you prefer. They're not equally strong in that stage. I'd argue that Arbalist is stronger in general.
Because that argument only works because the other ones is weak, right? Like I don't know. Like it could have easily been the other way around, right? Like it could have easily been that the Lacerators one was really strong and the Arbalist's one was really weak, and you would have made the same argument.
No, it couldn't have easily been that. No, I wouldn't have, because the Lacerator you kill more often. The if you're not paying that much attention when you're playing with randoms, the Lacerator always dies first, because the Lacerator is the easiest one to kill, because the Lacerator is the one that's in front of people, smashing them in the face. Everyone sees the Lacerator. Like I always make a point of pinging the Arbalist, so you know where it is, because it's digging around the walls and going off doing different shit. Whereas everyone will just mostly focus the Lacerator.
Yeah,
I think that's what's so great about the twins, is that you have one that's in the primary firing range and one that's off in the distance, but you want to hit both of them at the same time. However, it's difficult to do that because one's close and one's far. So it's encouraging you to hit both at the same time while making it difficult to do that. And it's encouraging you to kill the one that's closer to you, while also saying that there's going to be a downside if you do take the easy route and kill the one that's right in front of you, instead of trying to deal with the one that's further away.
Yeah, it's what's funny that obviously it gets better the more you think about it. Like, it gets more well designed the more.
Yeah.
I think they're actually.
You want to target the obviously, then you realise that, so you're like, I want to target the Arbalist, because targeting the Arbalist is the smartest move now. You've established that that's the smartest option in the fight. Now you're looking at the sky while the Lacerator is right next to you.
Doing not much. Let's be honest. Like, the fire-breathing attack is very weak. Like him digging up, it could give you a lot of fall damage, yeah, but ultimately, it's kind of easy to prevent even while looking up. The only real deadly one is the 3 spike coming out of the ground. Getting hit by one of those is pretty fucking deadly.
It still does damage.
Yeah, but barely enough to break your shield. The fire one, like it's like not that big a deal.
Together. Look, guys, they're great. Can we agree on the tier though? I think A is right. Everything you said.
Fine.
Yeah.
I think Tom would like for a 6.
All right, because I think we want to move on. Because we need to move on. We've got the acid spit.
All right, bit D.
Only because you don't like him.
Yeah, but also because fuck him.
The same problem as the slasher. They have far too much of an impact for how they're just. Like, I mean, Acid Spitter's even worse than slashers, in that a slasher at least has to walk up to you. An Acid Spitter's on the ceiling, you can't see him. Like,
I think
he's like
this is
one of the main reasons why you want to scout.
I don't have the same issues. I'll concede.
He's going to target the Acid Spitter.
If it helps, I'll concede the same tier as the slasher. I do not think they're that bad.
I think it's worse than the slasher, but I would concede to see. I hate the Acid Spitter. It's not well implemented at all.
The slasher is actually kind of like always an issue for like all hazards, but I would say the Acid Spitter goes from being annoying, a pest, just a general enemy, hazard 4, and grows to become the biggest threat in the game in hazard 5. Because I've said it once and I say it again, an Acid Spitter from across the map, the second he sees you, can shoot a projectile that one-shots you if you've just been rezzed. Like, if you have not gained any health,
accuracy and you can't do anything about it.
Hold on. Is the problem with that? Is the problem that it's so strong, or is it just the inconsistency?
What?
The inconsistency across difficulties, or is it inherently a problem that just so happens to be?
No, I think it is that the acid splitter is generally not a big deal in anything other than has 5 and probably above. But ignore. But literally, yeah, it is like. I'm not sure if the devs intended for it to have such an overpowering breakpoint because it is kind of too strong. Its distance is incredibly strong.
God.
Its attack is incredibly strong. Well, it's just enough. It's exactly enough to fuck you over.
It is still a pretty sensibly designed high priority target, because very very lethal.
And also completely invisible most of the time. Its red camouflage is way more than the web splitter's purple.
Oh, I agree. That is actually that part. That specifically, I agree.
You can't even kill it easily, and also because of its range, it means that you can't always even do anything about it.
It will get shot off before you kill it, right?
It will get shot off, sure.
And you start shooting it, and But if you have just been rezzed or have been rezzed and you're going to resupply, or there's no resupply or no red sugar, that one shot you're dead. From a enemy on the other side of the map that just took a single shot when you started shooting it, as soon as you saw it, but it saw you at the same time and shot, it's just bullshit.
I think the acid splitter should be much weaker against shields than your health. It should actually have a nerf against your shield. It doesn't even make sense that it would damage your shield. If you want to be really pedantic, what the fuck is acid going to do to an energy shield? So if that was implemented, where it's really just an anti-health thing, that would be pretty interesting, actually. Because in general, I do not have a problem with it being a very, very lethal but fragile enemy. And in a lot of ways, Hazard 5 is almost unfair in a lot of ways, even if you discount the specific enemies. So there is something going on with it still. I can't deny. There's something going on which does feel a bit disproportionately deadly. And plus, I would argue, personally, I actually like it, but I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, it's because you're never on one shot.
Yeah, because
He's taking all the red sugar before we can get it.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that, Tyler. I don't agree.
No, it's true.
Whatever. What would your ratings be, both of you?
Well, C is fine. I mean, I hate it enough to put in D, but C is reasonable. I think they're just as bad as the slasher, but the slasher is easier to fix. It has a mechanic that you can just remove. Meanwhile, the acid splitter, you would have to change something.
Well, the acid splitter should glow and just make a big loud sound for attacking. It's actually not that hard to fix.
More weak spot, a weak spot
on the back, maybe,
face, but on its arse as well.
See, that is actually a really good point, and is actually correct.
Essentially, turn it into the Menace.
Yeah, well,
its weak spot's just too difficult to hit, isn't it?
Yeah, it should be. Maybe it should be easier to kill. I don't know.
Either that, or you can shoot this projectile, which you can't.
I think you can.
Can you?
Really hard. Just really. I need to try that. I can't say that. Citation needed. Either way, we're going to leave it in C. I think that's fine. Unlike this fella, purple people eater, the web splitter.
The grimace, glyphic grimace.
I can honestly grimace, Griffid. I can honestly say I like the web splitter. I like him a lot. I don't know why, but I do. Very fun to kill.
They're not that much of an issue, and considering their ease of killing and their ease of seeing, I think they have got the balance between damage, threat, and health and ease to kill. They're right.
Yeah, they're very balanced.
Yeah, yes, they can pose a big threat, but for the for fuck's sake.
What?
Something probably happened to him in GTA.
Yeah, it just crashed.
The game, or you crashed?
The whole game just crashed, and I was just about to deliver a fucking top value vehicle and make 100k.
Whatever.
Actually, no, because it's a fucking high population server, so I was gonna make 150k, but the game just broke.
Anyway, web splitter. I don't have a particularly strong feeling though for rating. Cool.
Hate him.
You hate him. Hate web splitters.
Yeah. Because it's all fun and good that he's bright purple, but when your screen's covered in webs, the fuck are you meant to do?
They're always easy to hit.
Even when they're covered in webs, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
I can fucking see them. And they're so easy to kill as well. Maybe it's because you're a fucking driller.
No. I don't think that's true.
Rank, because I don't want to rank him. I do not like this guy to the point where I'm going to ignore him. It's not real.
That is really bizarre. I have literally 0 issues with the implementation. I actually quite like killing them. I don't know. I'm feeling an A. Genuinely. I really don't think they have any issues. And quite satisfying to kill. That's it.
Oh, yeah, that
down
makes
to
him an
me.
S.
No.
What do you mean no?
No.
I mean no.
That's not how I feel though.
But
not actually feeling an S.
Flaw? Do you think the concept was a good idea? Do you think the game needed a rooftop blinding creature?
Actually.
Yeah. What a fucking thought.
What does that mean?
Alright. It means fuck them.
Alright, fuck them. Fuck them, that's why. Hi.
Septic spreader.
Captain Spread'em.
We've had even less experience with spreader because he hasn't worked for like half the time.
That's true. That's true. But the spreader is. I am still. I think I'm just surprised that he is a noticeable, like, unique addition. You wouldn't necessarily suspect that, but he definitely is. And this is because it's not like all the time, because it's very hard to actually ensure this in a game with like as much RNG as Deep Rock has. But he really does fulfill the mortar role because he doesn't have to like see you to attack you, and that means he can be behind cover and just mortar you. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. As far as I've gathered, and by gathered I mean experienced and can remember that I experienced, if a septic spreader starts shooting, I am shooting him. Like, he is not getting away with that. I need to kill him right now. I need to kill him right now.
It's almost like it becomes a priority target once he decides to be.
Yeah. The second he makes that fucking sound, he has signed his death warrant, and I will do everything in my power to guarantee it goes through. Because I can't be letting that guy be alive.
He's also as easy to take down as he should be. I think he's not too frail. He's pretty satisfying to shoot at as well. But he's it's actually very, very well designed. Not a huge issue.
Yeah. And I think the question we have to ask ourselves is: did the game need a area denial guy?
Probably not.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think it kind of did. I mean, you got a lighter map.
We got the Praetorians, we got the goo bombers.
Yeah, but that's slowdown inherently. But I don't know. I think it doesn't. I don't think it hurts that part. And if only reinforces it as being a thing.
Well, Tyler, honestly, this is one where I think the implementation is actually better than the concept.
Yeah.
And that's kind of impressive, actually. It also just kind of looks nice. Does he not? He does. He absolutely does.
I think he's growing on me, yeah.
Growing on you?
Yeah. I mean, he's supposed to look like a testicle, right?
No. No. You need to. All right. I think that's that for him. Right?
I can't justify an S.
No, I don't think I can either. No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know what really does. I think S is a bit weird because ones that are pretty much good they can be, but still in A. I think S.
I think that just comes down to
something else. S is a bit more concept, isn't it? It's a bit
S. That's I don't know. I think S is just the concept was inherently just perfect. Like
that's how simple the ones in S are.
The implementation was great.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I would ask you if you have any things about the Spreadathon, but we agree on A, and I don't think you really have enough experience. To be honest.
Common. I have played the game.
All right, then what's your experience with them?
I agree with 8. They're great.
There we are.
Awesome. Menace. Disgusting. Disgusting creature.
I would say
good at what he does, though. I'm gonna be honest.
I'd say A.
Whoa. Okay. Slow down, cowboy.
It is a huge, tanky, frail creature.
It's a tanky, frail creature.
Points, hit the weak points.
He goes down like a motherfucker.
Easy. Yeah.
And his weak points are incredibly easy to hit.
Can do a lot of damage, but
it's also incredibly easy to dodge. Yeah,
if you're just moving, literally just moving left or right in a solid direction, he can't hit you.
Weak point. He'll fuck
all you
off.
do is know that, counter it while shooting him, and he'll just easy. The only problem is sometimes he doesn't stop fucking digging.
Sometimes he doesn't stop shooting when I thought he should.
He definitely makes regenerative bugs feel like a bad idea as well. He's
a fucking bastard at regenerative bugs. Jesus Christ. Yeah. But that's not terrible. That's not like a real deal breaker.
I think other ones couldn't experience the same thing.
It's fine having, I think, some things that are specific to a thing.
Yeah.
Because like Steve is just god tier on regenerative bugs.
Always seems to die though.
Having things dependent on mission modifiers just adds another level of interest for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know what they wanted from the Menace, like just a bigger, stronger acid spitter, but just as frail, if not frailer.
Not common either, so that's another positive.
Yeah,
they really don't show up that often.
I think they're definitely common enough.
Even in the missions they're in, you only ever see like 3 to 5 of them, right?
Yeah. Very rarely do you even have 2 at once. Most of the time there is 1.
And when you do, it's pretty annoying because I sometimes get confused as to which one it is that shows up. And health,
they can be a problem, but most of the time, they really aren't that big of a threat.
Thing is,
they can be, and that's perfect.
They ride the interesting line of being a high-value target that you could easily ignore for an entire swarm and deal with after.
Yeah.
Right? It's a really weird line that, like, if they give themselves up, die instantly, right? They fuck up their spawn, they're right in front of you, weak point just gaping hole in front of you, you just go for it, right?
Oh, do you want a quote from the SEO? It actually says that they represent a distinctly different avenue of glyphid evolution to the acid spitter. And it also says that it's an exponentially greater threat than the acid spitter.
Yeah, and I would, honest to God, disagree. Genuinely.
You're allowed to. That's fine. Okay.
I would rather fight a Menace any day of the week than an acid spitter. Like if you're like, I'm in the middle of a swarm and it's like, what you have a choice of what's going to come and join in the fight: acid spitter or Menace. Menace every single time.
Acid spitter.
Not even close.
All right, got a rating, mine, because I'll let you take this.
I think A. I don't think we were going for S. Were we going for S, Tom?
No.
I won't allow that.
I think its mechanics could be better. As in, like, sometimes it digs all the time, sometimes it shoots all the time, sometimes it's just like kind of weird what it's doing. You don't kind of understand it, and it's a bit weird.
I don't think the game would actually be any better or worse off without it. Like, it's not an incredibly influential and like fun addition.
But
right?
I think it's nice having some enemies like that. Like having all the enemies there all the time is too much, and it's
tanky rooftop enemy. It's kind of different.
Shows up every so often, does pose a threat. I think it's an A, but it could be slightly better. That's why it's an A, not an S.
Yeah. All right, I'll allow that. I mean, I don't like it as much. Still, not a problem. Exploder, El Excodoro. Probably, yeah. I mean, yeah. Actually,
They're so annoying, but they're so fun.
I hate them so much, but they are the exact right exploder type. They go down just as hard as you would hope them to do, and like they chain as well. That was just fucking awesome. The fact you can hit them in the head and actually deactivate them as well, which is pretty cool.
Deactivating them is surprisingly something you can do that with anything for a weak point hit.
Cryo as well.
Yeah,
so, like,
cryo wave could just delete
cryo for it. There's so many options in, like, you try and shoot the one at the front to get rid of all of them. It's just
you can use them to kill all the other
They're
enemies.
also useful. Yeah, they're useful, but they're also deadly in the right circumstances.
The exploder infestation, you're going to go down probably like 4 to 5 times if you give them the chance, right? Like
they are different as well. They are quieter and faster. Those ones.
Yeah. But even still, they can still
keep you on your toes. There's like counters for them. You can use them to your advantage. They're so fun. They're so fun to play with, play against. Like everything about them is just great.
They actually are
every fucking board game in the verse has an exploder enemy, right? Hell, even Minecraft has it, and it's fucking Minecraft.
I think these guys are inspired by the creeper partially. Anyway.
Yeah.
Stop and hiss.
Well, that and wasn't it also Left 4 Dead they were inspired by, and that had a bomber as well. I think.
Oh yeah, it could be or both. They're two main inspirations. So.
And they fucking nailed the execution.
I'm going. I gotta go.
All right.
Okay. What?
Anyway, I don't know. I expected him to say farewell or something.
He doesn't though. He doesn't.
No,
all right. Okay. Big D.
S. Like the fact
probably.
No, the concept.
Is it always fair though?
The concept alone is S+. I'm sorry, but the fact that we're adding exploders, let's add a giant exploder that giantly explodes. And that alone won the hearts of everyone as to why this game is a fucking treasure gem, right? And the execution will do. It's fine. It does exactly what it should. I mean, it is what it is, right? Like, slow moving, very clear radius when it's alive as to where it's going to hit you. Like, it is a very, very low threat if you keep tabs on it.
Yes. But there are some scenarios where I can't say it's entirely fair, and that's kind of that applies to escort duty and salvage job. Fortunately, it does. It's not always fair. I think you can handle it. What do you mean? What came first?
What came first? The bolt detonator or the salvage job?
Salvage job. Yeah. Well, whose fault is that then?
Ghost ships.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. I pretty difficult. I think. Maybe it's not difficult though. Maybe S is right.
No, but how much worse would the game be if that wasn't in the game?
I think even people who hate it, it's still necessary. Existence very important to the. Genuinely, it's actually one of the more iconic enemies as well.
Yeah,
and definitely. I feel like that's not an aspect of these that should be ignored either.
On a very genuine note, though, Harry, was this enemy not one of the main reasons why we loved the game from the beginning?
Right, whatever. Right. Is it the same?
I would have said yes, but ultimately, I think we can both agree on this. It has not aged well. It went from a giga cool concept with a giga cool execution to a chore.
Once you realise it's a chore, it just becomes a bit less important. But it's still cool. You don't have to mine it. You don't have to kill it, but also you kind of do have to kill it as well, though.
No, you have to kill it. Yeah.
And it's more of a tank as well. It's more of a bullet sponge than the normal detonator do.
It drains your ammo. Yeah. It's definitely not low down. It would still be just an A, but
I'm gonna much of an enemy anyway. But it still is, but it's also just a bit weird at this point. It still has a bit of luster to it, but at the same time, I don't get excited when I see them.
But I feel like maybe we need to put ourselves into the mindset of not people that have had to spend probably a genuine day of our lives overall mining the gold that it makes. If we try and separate that part of ourselves from it and look at just the sheer genuine creativity and love that this thing implies they had in it for this game.
All right.
Fuck it, giant exploder.
Like,
you know what? I'll fucking double that. Fuck it, giant exploder that paints everything it explodes in gold. Have some of that nuggets. And then here we are. But
okay.
Maybe still an A.
Okay, sure. After that, it makes sense. Brood Nexus.
B. I think it is probably B.
B for Brood Nexus. It's kind of weird, man.
Genuinely was designed to annoy you.
Yeah.
Right? On a very, very genuine
Not a threat. It's annoying.
It's literally there to just piss you off because it never produces enough of the swarmers to do anything bad until it dies, and even then it's not that big a deal. But literally it just releases one every 30 seconds, or probably a bit less.
It's quicker than that. Yeah, it's definitely quicker. But
ultimately, as mentioned, swarmers don't do anything unless they're in large numbers. This thing doesn't produce large numbers, therefore it is producing swarmers purely for the sake of annoying you. That's literally it. Plus, those, as you mentioned, those swarmers have 4 health, so they're clearly supposed to die instantly. No matter what, just go. And so they're not.
Tyler,
there
I'm going to be honest. I can't say that it's actually more valuable. Brood Nexus is not. Brood Nexus is not a massive issue in the game at all, really. But it's still not it's not that valuable either.
Yeah, it annoys me that it's one of the only 2 normal stationary enemies, normal ones that you would just kind of see, and they're a casual thing. It annoys me that it's one of them. I guess K-Leech.
I forget that, but it is one.
Yeah, but when you walk into a room and there's giant things waiting for you, you have a spitballer and you got the Nexus, and the Nexus is such a twat, and it doesn't do anything, and it goes down like a sack of shit when you want it to, just hitting the weak points or temperature shocking it or whatever, right? And you can freeze it, which is nice, but it ultimately is a evil addition to the game. They added it out of malice, just to piss you off. There's always a swarmer at your foot. That's its entire purpose.
Yeah,
fuck it. D, actually. Fucking D.
Alright, fine. Alright. Anyway, we do need to speed up anyway, because I don't know if we want to. Problem is, if we separate it, then it's kind of leaving out a lot of the recent stuff.
Yeah.
Do we have a time,
or do we really just want to hurry up for the sake of hurrying it up?
Want to know the time?
No, I know the time, but do you need to go? Is that why we're doing this?
No, I've got all
so
time
just
in the world.
Speed it up for the sake of
Alright, Macteria Spawn.
Not being. No, they nailed it. I'm sorry, they nailed it. Yes.
Yeah, actually, I think so, because it has frustrating elements, but only if you let it be frustrating. If you try and hit it while it's dancing around, you're an idiot. Wait for it to stop. You can always. It's still weak enough to always be killed before it actually attacks, even once it's stopped as well. And it's not quite the same as it doesn't actually serve the exact same purpose as a grunt. You don't just get waves of them to mow down as much. As in you get them in smaller groups, so that you can it's very nice to scout when you go one by one, just taking them out. Very satisfying.
It's kind of a hard. I'm trying to put the an example of it together. But say the grunts are a normal you're on surface level, which obviously they are. The macteria is literally just a wrench, now you have to look up. That's what its point is. It feels
I don't know about you, but there's something about certain weapons, and the M1000 and the crossbow specifically against these. It was pretty great.
Even the GK feels solid, hitting the weak point. All the scouts primaries do pretty solid.
Bulldog as well. This other one feels great against these fuckers.
Yeah, Warthog is pretty solid. Is that what you said, or did you say Bulldog?
I said Bulldog. Warthog as well.
And in Breach Cutter, when you
if it's a group of them, absolutely. I love it when I get a bigger horde. I've got my PGL build that I love. It just fucking destroys them. It feels so good, and it works against all Macteria.
They're not actually.
Are pretty flawless, actually.
Yeah, and they obviously can be really, really strong, especially in Macteria Plague. But I would argue that they themselves are fair.
Yeah, they are meant to be stronger than an individual grunt. They obviously are. They're different. You get them in much less numbers. Threat. Yeah. They are different. They are the Macteria grunt, but Macterias are on average a cut above. The Macteria operate in a middle between the lows and highs of the Glyphids. You know what I mean? Glyphids have got much weaker lows, but their peaks are way higher because they got the Dreadnought. But then we also have the Brundle. Well, I think that's actually the right place to put it, maybe. as in, it's not a guard. It's meant to be a guard, but it's like, you've got the fact that the macteria is arguably a much more interesting than individual grunt, but the Brundle is such a step below in terms of like the equivalence.
Yeah.
As a guard, it's so much worse than the guard is for the Glyphids.
And I would say that,
not worse. I mean, the Brundle was just wasted potential. It's actually a fine thing,
especially since I think that
makes arm rating more valuable, and it's not a huge threat anyway. It's not like an unfair bastard either.
Yeah and no, because I mean, like I don't know, like with the grunt guard, his point was to kind of survive, right? That was his thing, and then that throws a wrench into whatever plan you had, where you would kill all of them, and that kind of thing. But like the macteria is not really designed to just survive. Like it's really supposed to go down like a sack of shit, because it does the damage of it. And this guy, the fact that he does survive longer, it is basically just like the swarm.
It feels more forced though as well, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it's not like he's tried.
Really
he just happens to be covered in armor.
Yeah,
the guard still most of the time has its weak point exposed. The Brundle doesn't have like shields that it puts.
Yeah, but I genuinely wouldn't want that. It's a swarm but armored, and that's like it. He does the exact same attack as well, right? The exact same damage. I'm not even sure if he bothers strafing. He might, but but ultimately, I think we're both of the opinion that it should have bonked you, right? Which is like, so objectively, it should be a flying like meatball that just bashes you around.
Well, it's a flying bowling ball. It's a bowling ball with wings, or like a boulder with wings.
Yeah, and in that you would have to kind of kill it before it like bashes you, like I don't know, like a trawler would. But
I mean, I was thinking about like the Corona or the trawler, and I wasn't sure if it would like it would like launch itself and like roll. I think it would just swoop at you, swoop down at you.
Yeah, it would be like a swinging motion.
That's pretty weird. Whatever. So I mean, it's just due to these things, it's strange. This one is I'm feeling even a bit lower just because I don't think it's that valuable. I want it. No,
they know it. I'm sorry, but they know it. That motherfucker is probably one of the rarest enemies in the base pool in the game. Right? I mean, we have new seasons come out. These new 2 enemies are infinitely more common than a Brundle.
Brundle's not even that common.
We've probably seen about as many Brundles as Harold, right?
Whoa. Yeah, they show up.
Terror Plague, you just never see Brundles
ever.
Yes, you do. No, you don't.
I play a lot more than kids. I do see them, but that's different. I mean, I don't really. That's it. This potential. That's it.
I'd be down for a D. I think conceptually and execution-wise, it's lackluster. It is genuinely, it is a waste of time for it to be in the game.
Yeah, and it's just a waste of praise to praise it, rather than it should only be not because it's terrible, but it almost doesn't deserve to be anything. Not that it's like the worst thing in the game, but it almost should only be criticised because it needs to be different, almost. Yeah. So I'm actually happy with that. And which leads us to the Trijaw, who's not going to be a D.
I think Trijaw is interesting because I think Trijaw is better executed than the Slasher in that they decided to make the macteria more lethal by not increasing the damage, but the chance that they will hit you with the damage.
It does still have the problem. It does still have the problem of doubling down in a way that doesn't make sense. Like we talked about, the Slasher probably shouldn't be as fast, or maybe it shouldn't have the stun. The Trijaw still have the same issue of where why did they do splash damage? Just got 3 projectiles. Yeah, that's why you get hurt by it so often, even when you feel like you should dodge it. Right. It's splash damage.
Well, I think that's kind of the point that I think it's trying to make, is that it is just the less avoidable shots, right? That is their approach to making the macteria more lethal, because I think they knew that more damage would start getting a bit absurd, so they just made it so you're more guaranteed to take that damage. But I think they may have gone too far with that, because with the splash damage and with just how awkward the terrain always is, you can get hit by like all of the shots and get one shot, right? And I think that being able to get one shot at like full health by just a guy that they can spawn 5 in at a time is absurd.
Yeah, I mean that obviously that's something that can be very punishing, but very rewarding as well, which I don't think is a good argument for them. I just mean if you have the means to take them down, you feel very good that you brought that load out. Yeah. Like when I have a PGL that just kills them all in one shot, or you have the boomerang or something. It's like, oh, I'm so glad I have this. And they also go down pretty easily, right? They are not hard to kill. They are, though, infamous. They are infamous in a way where I don't think they're actually hated by that many people. They are just known for how evil they are.
I think B is right, because I think genuinely, I think they hit the like base version, right? Grunt and macteria Swarm, and they were like, all right, they need to make one that survives better and one that's more lethal. And I think they did the macteria lethal better. Like it was a better concept. I agree. They were like, instead of just more damage or a status effect, they went for chance of hitting. Right, that route. Like it's more lethal because it will hit more often.
I wouldn't say a problem, but it's like they are clearly meant to be a cut above. It's why you don't see as many of them. Warden is more interested in the grunt. The Tri-Jaw is better than Slasher, but the Brundle is worse than the Guard, which I just think is a problem. Yeah. It shouldn't be that way. Not that they should be better, they should be equal. So one should be more than the other. I don't know. It speaks to the Brundle's issue. Yeah, obviously we have the Tri-Jaw is often a source of complaint while playing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it still occupies a okay place. They might still be too common. These fuckers are weirdly. They are just as common as a Spawn, pretty much.
Yeah.
They're pretty much pretty common, and that makes them feel more common.
They might be too strong. Like, but the have higher chance to hit turned into you're more likely to get hit than not.
It's a pretty similar thing to the stingtail, though, isn't it? A stingtail might be too common.
Yeah.
So it's not too dissimilar to that. Yeah, I think that's actually fair.
B is right.
They could have been more controversial because I think they are quite controversial, but I'm glad that we didn't make a big deal of it.
Bomber. I think that's an A. I think they're fine.
They are. I don't think about them too much. They're not really I can't call them a big threat. They're just kind of nice to kill. Kind of. I like the destructible weak points quite a bit.
They're like, they are like an aerial Praetorian. And we say that macteria is like a tier above, but I would say that, it's the same tier. Like, I think the Goo Bomber is essentially as much as a threat as the Praetorian, except the Goo Bomber was slightly rarer, right?
I feel more common sometimes, to be honest. They're weirdly common.
Yeah, the Goo Bomber's goal isn't really to kill you. Obviously, it does have an attack, but it doesn't often do it, and it's not the end of the world if it hits you. Which it does tend to do if he does use it. It's a very big AOE, but it's mostly to just fuck you over with everything else that's attacking you. Right? Pour the slowness all over you. You get caught up on dead. Right? That's its goal, which I think was a cool concept. If malice, right? If a malicious one, it was it worked, but yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's definitely just an A. I think.
Yeah, it's definitely one I don't have much feelings on. So I think even there,
it has a variant. So yeah, it's
doesn't nice. Variant doesn't. It's got another variant.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, we've got to deal with the last macteria.
All right. Yes.
Concept. Oh, okay.
No,
so
I think they fucking nailed it. Maybe its weak point should have been bigger.
Yeah. Okay, so this grabber is another one that's actually very iconic. Once again, this is an iconic, very iconic enemy. It almost is one of the most iconic, and they understand that. I don't know if you know, but it's its cry is actually deliberately louder than everything else in a way that doesn't actually make sense. You have to hear it or something. Is the idea. You have to hear it. You have to know that it's coming because otherwise it's not fair. And it's actually, in my opinion, one of the best grab enemies. They don't feel actually that unfair.
Can do about it.
It's also that. There is that.
Can.
Yeah. I think they are close
Plus, they're not even game over once you get grabbed. Often not, if anything. Like they often tend to just move you somewhere else and then put you down like nicely. They
Yeah,
can screw
they
you
are
over,
just to
but
sort of disrupt the team more than anything.
yeah,
They're not
it's
actually
like
a
if you're
huge.
all
They're not much of a killer, really.
yeah, if like you're all like together fighting a horde, and you just like that the grabber just kind of slips by, grabs one, and takes him away, like that kind of thing. Like I don't know. I think he is a cool concept executed about as well as you would want it to.
Pretty
He's
much
not
as well as it can
unfair,
be.
but also not like useless. Like he does get away with
Yeah,
it
it's
quite
like one of
often.
those. It's like a massive high priority. It's like arguably one of like. Actually, I feel like when there's a grabber around, it's going down because for some reason everyone prioritizes it because
Yeah.
they're also not unfair either. Because a high priority target doesn't inherently have to just be unfair. And I feel like that's something that it gets right, in that it justifies being a high priority target, but it doesn't just one shot you. It's strange. And I feel like maybe people target them as well because they're actually quite easy to kill. So it's like we might as well just take it out. I don't know. I think in some ways it could actually be more of a threat, but maybe it shouldn't be. So I'm not sure how valid that is. Are you feeling S quite strongly?
I think he is up there with fun ideas executed funly, and or just good ideas executed well. Like
yeah, I mean, is it fair though when you do get dropped to your death when sometimes you don't? You know what I mean? It's like, is that consistency really right, or the inconsistency? Should it be inconsistent?
It's very difficult for him to get away with it, right? Like, it's first of all, it's easy for you to kill him because you're given such an obvious warning, heightened senses as well. But I will ignore that.
But it's more like it's actually more like the fact that it's only occasionally punishing. It's almost an argument that it should actually get. It would be better if it actually killed you every time. But it's just,
it would be fairer if it actively always shot you from a high height. But the fact that sometimes you can even get away with fumbling all of the steps that would result in you getting taken away by it, like your teammates not killing it, Bosco not killing it, you not killing it, like or like attacking it enough for it to run away, which is another thing I like. You don't have to kill it; you just have to do enough damage for it to back off, and then it will like take two, like in a minute.
So I mean, I'm sort of thinking it could be stronger. At the same time, it still occupies a very good role where it's like you don't actually need everything to be deadly for it to be valuable, and we've obviously proven that, and with other things. So I think, you know what? I'm gonna let's go with S. Actually, I don't know. I don't know if it's one of the strongest S's. I don't know if it's but still an S. Yeah, it's almost like a bolt detonator as well. They got the sort of the iconic thing on the side.
Cool concept.
Source of dread.
It's like a giant fucking mosquito that grabs you.
Speaking of source of dread, cunt. Absolute cunt.
This is an example of the swarmer type. The type where there's just hundreds of little fuckers. And the mistake they made here was adding the electric shock.
Yeah, they just couldn't help but give it some kind of slowdown, which honestly, they do us a bit too much, honestly. Yeah. They really do. Okay, and that's fine. I think a lot of people actually agree with that. There's a bit too many slowdowns in the game.
Because it essentially means that if you get hit by one, unlike the swarmer, where it's like kind of, you get hit by one, you can get royally fucked. Royally fucked in that instant.
They are also one shot from everything, though. We got that going for them. They're one shot from everything. There's nothing that can't kill them one shot.
But ultimately, as a swarmer type, your numbers kind of counter that being the thing. That's kind of the point, right? But all it takes is for one to get through, and you could be royally screwed. Plus, if they catch up to you and you're not paying attention, they engulf you. They are a bigger issue than the swarmers, I would say. I don't give a shit. I don't hate them as much as you and Tom do, but I do see, because they got shock to them, right? That's just immediately more bullshit than the swarmers. So it's definitely be or below, right? That much is not.
Well, the thing is, the breeder produces its own ones anyway, as in they are actually separate. So I wasn't to treat them separately because part of me feels like part of me.
Breeder one's more fair.
Feels like the breeder is should be the only source of them.
Yeah, breeder ones you can stop the irritation. These ones you're just kind of stuck with them for the entire mission.
Yeah, if they just happen to
mission
show up,
onwards,
it's not.
They're just gonna keep attacked by them.
As in, I think these ones shouldn't have shock. I think they'd be okay, but the problem is they have shock, and I feel like breeder ones is actually not a problem there. I feel like it's the kind of thing where it's actually okay for them to be much more lethal than normal swarmers, if you can always remove the source, basically. And that's why I think the brood nexus sucks, but the breeder doesn't. I think the breeder is a much better breeder.
Well, because as mentioned, the brood nexus only ever releases one, so the point is never to kill you; it's to annoy you. The brood nexus releases a lot.
The breeder, you said brood nexus again.
Yeah, breeder, yeah. The breeder is breeding with the goal of killing you, with hunting you down with hundreds and hundreds of little flying fucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is trying to kill you, and I think it is also a more interesting thing, right, than the brood nexus. It's a flying creature. It's clearly interesting enough that it got a variant. So I'm not sure. Did you put in B because you think it's B? But
maybe
it's definitely not an S.
No, I don't think so either.
But
I think sometimes it's a bit too. It's like it's another awkward one though, where it is definitely more worth killing.
Is annoying.
How do you feel about that? Do you think it's like a good idea?
I think it should always be runnable. Like that mouth bit should be its weak point. It should always be able to deal damage to it, not just when it's breeding.
Well, actually, something that I like, something that maybe could even be updated because you've got like the weird sort of. They're not tails. They're not what you would call them. Maybe the ends of those could be destructible weak. I don't know another thing that does. Oh, the Menace does this, where it's like its head, its face is a weak point, but it also has 2 destructible weak points on the side. I don't know. I feel like you could do better. And then the good one obviously doesn't have a main. I don't know. It is interesting that it has a weak point that goes in and out of being closed. But it's very. It's so. It's
the issue
pretty
is,
much
is that it isn't exposed. Well, it's always exposed. You can see the weak point. It just doesn't register that it is one, and it's kind of jank. Like it's just because the pink isn't glowing, it doesn't count, even though you can still see it's big. Like it's kind of like if it's not a weak point, it should like close up, not just not count for no visible reason.
It's got some frustrating elements that could a couple actually definitely be better. But it's also a far better implementation of the idea than the.
Yeah, and I mean it is a huge tank, right? There was a reason why basically it's like anyone has cryo, please cryo. Like you see a breeder, like scout, please.
Yep.
Yeah, because otherwise it's a real bullet sponge. But yeah, I think B is fine. It could be an A, but also.
All right. Okay.
I don't think they nailed it.
Dickhead.
That one in particular, ultimately, E. Why did they feel the need to add a tiny version in only one biome? What possessed them?
I think that was just a salt pits thing, as in it was just something for the salt pit, not for this, not for the Corona specifically.
I guess they were just like, what could we add to the salt pits? And like,
right, okay, maybe we'll say that their shells are made of salt. Oh, sure, okay, cool. Right, get on it. And they added these annoying bastards who give the salt pits their main source of individual danger. It's the source of danger from the salt. The only real distinct source of danger from the salt pits.
And oh boy, is it an annoying one, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that they're probably C. It's just a weird concept to just have a smaller version of a normal port enemy be a biome specific one, and it's not a great execution either because they're annoying, but also really frail, but also really annoying.
Not an enemy.
Yeah. But Papa Corona.
Okay. okay, I'm going to jump in. He does, once again, has actually the slasher problem, or arguably worse. He doesn't need to do all the different things that he does.
Yeah, just the mortar spray is completely unnecessary.
It is maybe completely unnecessary. Yeah. And that is easily the biggest problem. That's it's a fairly basic attack, and it's literally just there to make him really deadly. If you take that out, it's actually an extremely individual combat role that he plays that nothing else really approaches upon. He's actually very, very novel, basically. Yeah. Genuinely a great idea. He just has a really generic and annoying attack snapped onto him, and it's really it's really frustrating.
It just really felt like they were like, oh, we can't have him be just purely vulnerable or just standing there, and and then they just added the fucking septic spreader spray, which ultimately kills me more than it should, considering how deadly he is in his other form. Like, this should be his vulnerable state, and yet it is not that. It's his equally deadly, but also, I guess, still technically vulnerable state.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I think
the problem. The thing is, the concept and the execution of that concept are pretty close to perfect. It's just that addition is really a big problem.
I think
that's why B is actually a good place. Yeah.
I think if it didn't have the spray, it would be a fine addition. If obviously still very annoying, ultimately fair. But right now, it's more on the unfair. Like, it's kind of stupid that he has a ranged attack that strong.
Yeah, that's the shellback.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Pretty similar actually to this guy. They're quite similar things, just stuck in one biome. Controller though can grab you. Isn't the thing that makes it terrible? It's not the thing that makes it terrible. At the same time, I can't say I've ever had anything but hatred towards these things.
Damaging them enough to make them come out of the ground and writhe in pain gives me a sense of sadistic pleasure, which I'm not sure anything else in the game does.
That's a bit concerning, right?
Like having done enough damage for it to be like, oh no, please don't hit me, and like with his like belly in the air, like him like, heh, fuck you, and then I put a bullet in his ass,
naked belly.
Although more realistically, I've been driller primarying him, so he's been slowly dying anyway, and then it doesn't really change much when he comes.
But Sunfuck shot doing men. Basically.
He's pretty pissed for a driller.
Problem is, he's still not really that distinct beyond just Corona. You can still get Coronas.
He's a weird addition. Yeah.
I mean, I would have laughed if it was another Corona, because he just has his own species for no good fucking reason. It's actually so stupid that he's just completely on his own category, and he's a one biome enemy. I mean, what? Yeah. It's actually not okay. Hold on, rating. Can we just? I don't care. See.
Ultimately, I don't care enough about him. The concept was weird. The execution was weird. It was all weird. Why weird? Like it. I don't know. See. Yeah.
All right. So, you're gonna treat them the same, as I assume, right?
Yeah. I think probably A.
Ooh, well, okay. I'll immediately jump in and say they're definitely not. They actually are fine. They actually are good. They're decent additions. There are differences, but they're so small, and I'll explain quickly. The difference is the hollow bow ones. There's more of them.
All right, and technically, aren't they wasps?
And they're less aggressive.
The thingies are bees. I think the hollow bow are wasps.
Oh, I just what? What?
I don't know. But ultimately, I think they're A. I think they are good environmental spice. And I think we both look forward to more bees.
We definitely want more bees. Yeah. Not just more of these for different biomes. Well, want the species to take off. Want the Deep Tora invasion, Deep Tora takeover.
Yeah. Finally broken a line.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the bees. They are kind of gay.
Oh god. Oh god, the fucking Corona. Oh god.
No, the Corlock type.
That's the one. I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, that's what we feel, definitely, right?
it's not perfect.
No.
It's not perfect. It's not perfect, but it is very good, and I'm glad they added it.
It is it is actually very much so a standalone boss fight. Obviously, that is what it is literally. But you talked about how the or Tom, I think, was saying how the dreadnoughts can't be full-on boss fights on their own. That's what he was kind of saying.
Yeah.
And the Corlock definitely is. I think the Corlock does rely a little bit on other sources of danger, usually, as they can. At the same time,
terrain is incredibly important.
The Corlocks are actually they're very difficult to sweep. I don't think they ever set themselves up for failure. They're always at least a base level of challenge. Sometimes, honestly, you can cheese a Betsy almost. It feels like cheesing it. You have the right setup. Same with Dreadnoughts almost. But Corlocks always have a base level difficulty. It only gets worse from there based on.
And I think the interesting thing is that the Corlock, genuinely, like, it could be its own final boss, but it wouldn't be a good one, right? Like, I mean, like, I think you could like have an entire mission build up to a Corlock fight, and like the Corlock would hold its own, kind of. But
the
ultimately,
Corlock mission would be more like a bigger thing. It's like a bigger Corlock. You've got to go off and do like mini bosses and then come back to the main one.
The Corlock is quite similar to the Caretaker and the Omeran in that, it's a stationary middle bit with a bunch of tendrils that do the rest for it, right? And there's at least a stage in both of those fights where that's the case.
Yeah, I think the Corlock actually does have a bit of an issue of being more just oppressive than interesting, if you know what I mean. It sort of stays interesting because you can't. I don't know. It is interesting in concept. It's fairly interesting to fight, but it's becoming a little bit like maybe could do more stuff. At the same time, it doesn't need to because it's so strong. But I feel like it would be nice if there was if it was justifiable to give it like more like stages, not more stages, different stages, different things it can grow. But it's so powerful that it doesn't need that. So it's sort of just stuck as being very strong, but not a huge amount of variety. And the variety comes in terrain.
Yeah.
So that's actually what does it. And it's actually very well implemented in that sense.
Yeah. I think it's still a valuable piece of a game, and I think it was a cool concept for them to add. But I think it has aged slightly. Because that came out like just after 1.0, right?
Yeah, it's definitely old, but I feel like it's stayed pretty like.
Not
I don't know.
Really,
I don't feel like
if they added it now, there would have been more than just the healing and the shooting ones. They would have done a bit more than that.
Oh, in that sense, yeah, I think a little bit more.
Yeah. But all in all, I think it's still very good, very interesting. I always enjoy when we bump into one. I enjoy bumping into one, but I don't inherently enjoy the following fight. But it is what it is.
They're a very cool presence in the game as well. I love the Corlock. It's almost like it has an entire like seasonal idea behind it, but it's just loitering, waiting.
Yeah.
Like it's something that could really be something more significant. As in, like, how is there just this random, just intelligent farm throws turrets and stuff?
Yeah.
What the fuck is this? Why is it here? But it just is, and I like that. I'd love to see expanded upon well, but I mean, I'm a pretty big Corlock fan. Betsy, however, is and this is that's obviously not Betsy herself. It's one of the charge suckers. Betsy is definitely the more erratic one of the two. Like much more punishing. I do, however, see Betsy almost as equal. You can take down Betsy very, very quickly. If you really want, depending on the setup. And she could do the same to you.
Because the Corlock time gates you, right? Corlock is kind of a battle of endurance more than inherent like power. But Betsy, it is you are fisticuffs fighting this machine, and it will punish you if you back down. It is not endurance. It is you need to kill it before it kills you right quick. There is no escape. It is coming.
You can't kill it quickly. You are at a disadvantage. You are at this point as soon as it actually goes into combat mode, basically, which might be a problem. She's so fucking deadly, crazy. and it is to the point of absurdity, in my opinion. Obviously, it's a random boss fight. You kind of do have to fight it most of the time. It's hard to avoid.
The only genuine issue is that ultimately she's never worth it. Like, she does not help you enough in the mission to warrant the risk you are going into fighting her. At least unless you're capable enough to where you could confidently take her on. But like, it is just generally speaking never worth it. She doesn't help you. You don't get any more rewards, and in the mission, she probably kills like maybe 50 enemies, maybe if you're lucky, and she maybe might not hit you as well. Like during being on your side, and I think ultimately. I think the boss fight is equal to the Corlock in that I'm glad it's in the game, but the reward is just so less. Like, it's just so much less that I think it's a tier below. It's just because it's not worth it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly why. I mean, I put it B. Like that's like the holding area, but that's still where I think Betsy belongs. So it's pretty perfect. I do just like Betsy in general as well as an idea, especially another really great idea. Just old DRG tech. Speaking of which, we don't really have the Omen. We don't have the Omen in here. But
yeah, I guess in a way we are reviewing like most of the events here, but that's for another video, I guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess it is. What about that?
Yeah, and this is the okay.
Right, Spitballer.
Yeah.
Ignoring that one. Spitballer.
Just so we're clear, in case you know, I think it's worth mentioning. If you don't recognise that, that's the parasite warning parasite.
That's the blank space in your bestiary at the top of other.
Yeah.
That's the
that is the waste of space and needs
I
to
don't
genuinely
know if I actually know this, but I'm beginning to be like convinced that it's only available in double warning. Because Leaf of Age Outbreak isn't. Because there's something going on. Rework that warning to be a generic Rockbox warning or something. I don't know. Whatever. Ignore it. It's bad. Sucks. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
But that's not why we're putting it in D. Spitballer. That might be where it belongs. I don't know. That might be. These are dated. These are.
Yeah.
And that's aesthetics mainly. But my God, do they look old?
Yeah. They stick out like a sore thumb so bad nowadays.
They are like the sore thumbs of Foxy.
Yeah. Like they're just, I don't know. Yeah, I think they're fine gameplay wise as well. They're pretty domineering, right? Like you go into a cave and you hear two fucking guys just raise their head. You're like, these things are gonna start going downhill pretty quick. But I don't know. Yeah, other than how dated they are, they're generally fine. I mean, I hate them. I've made that pretty clear.
I like killing them.
Yeah.
And the fact that the little things they leave behind look like Among Us.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's probably A, but they need to. What do you mean? What? It's nothing wrong with it, other than how old it looks, right?
Yeah, I guess they are quite. I just think they're quite deadly. We'll get killed by them quite often. It's like I feel like I haven't got any better at dealing with them. For some reason.
They're lethal, and or are very killable at the same time. It feels like a challenge to fight them. Obviously, when they get thrown on top of a normal swarm, it starts getting spicy. But if they're on their own, they can tend to be dealt with quite easily. They are fine, if incredibly dated.
Yeah. All right.
Cave leeches.
Cave leech, iconic, by the way. It's up there.
Yeah.
Definitely up there with the others. Grabber, detonator.
It's literally their Discord thing. It's like their icon within a cave leech, like appearing to go grab you.
Yeah, they're so iconic despite the fact that I don't really think about what they actually look like. They're just a hand that reaches out from the darkness. So conceptually, fucking amazing. By the way,
yeah,
find that out. Implementation is actually like pretty much perfect, but that doesn't mean the actual mechanical idea is amazing. You know, things that just kill you like this and can also potentially even team wipe you. I don't know quite how I feel about them.
I think the rad thing about it, like it is like mechanically in-game playing kind of not the best thing feeling wise, but ultimately, what it does for the game as a whole destroys that mattering because
it's part enough of the game's
makes,
identity that you're pretty much always thinking. I mean, I'm not thinking about them,
yeah,
but that's kind of the idea, isn't it?
It makes being in the cave scary. It's the cave leeches. Nothing else really does that other than maybe the grabber, right? Like you're never like looking up into the darkness of the ceiling or just like what's that noise and then genuinely getting scared as a cave leech is about to grab you. Like that's it doesn't really come from anything else. Cave leeches are, you know, the thrill of the game, the horror, the jump scares.
One more kill.
Yeah, they're the, I don't know, they're the spice that occasionally gets thrown in to like scare the hell out of you. And then obviously, you know, sometimes they'll grab you and fucking put you in the ground.
Yeah, it's like you accidentally eat a chili in your food, and it's like you might, if you're lucky, you have a glass of milk nearby, mate.
Yeah.
If you're not, you're going to end up, your nose is going to end up running, and you might, if it's a ghost chili, you're going to end up vomiting.
And I think ultimately, I think they, as much as I don't want to use the perk as a cope, but I do think that heightened senses as a perk was added to the game for the people that feel like cave leeches is too unfair. Like I genuinely
because
think
they're too important. They're actually, because them actually just taking you and killing you is so important to identity that they take you and you're gone. That's the idea. Yeah. They kind of do need to one shot you. It's part where they don't actually one shot you. They need to be inescapable. Part of their identity. So giving, but there still was an option for that. Yeah, I mean,
for the people
on a base level, if I just take my understanding of game design and just apply it, it's just like you don't really make enemies like this, but it's worked in its favor somehow. And I think, despite this, that obviously they're very easy to kill. They're not actually a huge threat if you can see them. I think A tier is pretty good. As in, I don't think they could actually change. What I mean, they're more so can't change rather than actually perfect. There's a difference.
If I were Ghost Ship, I would not dare touch them because if you if you remind people that cave leeches are bullshit, like there'll be a riot, right? Like if you change anything about because currently there is actually something going on, right? That the cave leeches don't make a sound, right? That's a current glitch, isn't it?
I don't know.
They're not hissing. I don't think. I've heard or haven't heard.
Wow.
But,
that was clever.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think it made people realize how bullshit cave leeches kind of are. But ultimately, it's a bullshit worth having. They're, rad.
Yeah. Another one.
S.
Well, no. Sorry. I can't. No, because it's not a real enemy. Right? If you want to be S, I want to see its health bar, and I want to see your status effects on it. All right? Until that time, it's stuck in A. Apart from that, what a fucking awesome idea, and they just work. They just work.
Best, biome enemy.
Even though also I talk about that you can't see the health bar and that they still somehow feel good to kill. And they've got amazing they got amazing sound design of how they creak into place and then like swoosh forward, just try and impale you. They're fucking swords on vines, man. What's going on here? What is this? What is this?
Yeah, that was concept and execution massively being done for an already good biome, making it like even better. But fair enough.
I do want to see some kind of enemy that not uses the mechanic. I want to see some kind of enemy that's like a moving red vine creature somehow.
Yeah, well, I think
for the Praetorian enemy, I want to see it and it can stab you like this, but it moves as well.
Using the mechanic is kind of what I think the Nemesis's arms and the tendrils coming out of the Caretaker probably.
Well, I don't think the Nemesis does it. I think the Nemesis might for the animation, but the Caretaker appendages are the same kind of thing, pretty much.
Yeah.
The way that they target and attack.
Which is a smooth transition to
Caretaker.
the rivals.
Wait, what? What? Patrol probably has is actually greatest difference in its top two major phases of life, basically. As in, it really has two distinct phases rather than just being tweaked over time. It's like pre-season 2 and post-season 2. Basically, it's two phases of life. Also, we're talking about the current one. and the current one is pretty solid. Like,
yeah, ultimately manageable. But I wouldn't say too like I don't know. I don't know when the last time a patrol bot killed me, but I'm not sure if that's because I've just experienced less patrol bots or because they're so much like less lethal. I think probably during a rival mission, it's probably killed me while the Caretaker spawned it, but ultimately that was a bit more than just a patrol bot. But I think it comes down to execution really, and this is something with the rivals. It doesn't feel good to kill.
This is one of the more rewarding ones though. When you get a hackable one, it does have that aspect to it. Be ignored.
But the hackable one makes the killing them even worse, right? Where normally it at least explodes when you kill them. This one you kill them and they just kind of slowly start falling to the ground. And ultimately you've gained something from it, so it's oh well, but it makes the feeling of killing a thing even kind of worse, like on a technical level, like the feeling of it. But I don't know. I mean, visual-wise, it's pretty rad. But...
They're not bad. They're not too bad to fight, and they are kind of cool, I guess. And you also get hackable ones, but they still have the basic problem that they all have. Sometimes they are pretty frustrating to hit. I think I will be maybe lowest, but maybe still.
No, I would not put it in A. I can't do that. It's not.
Okay. B's perfect.
But I would say that the shredders, I think they're A.
Yeah, so do I. I think they are better flying swarmer.
Yeah.
Than these guys.
They feel pretty nice to kill as well because most of the time you're pickaxing them and they take 2 hits, right? They're a tankier swarmer.
No, they do not. They absolutely do not take 2 hits.
No.
Where
have I got that from?
I don't know. Sometimes it feels like you're hitting them when you're not. That's what it is, probably.
Right.
But when you hit it, it is 1 hit. Trust me.
All right. But they are tanky though, right? Like, so they will like tank some bullets, won't they?
Yeah. Like that's the thing. They're actually very hard to kill with something like the GK2. If you want to use that, that's not a great idea. You're probably not going to pull it off. It
actively encourages pickaxing them, really, doesn't it? Like it's just the best shout in all terms.
Yeah, because they're not too deadly, but they're almost not as aggressive as the other swarm.
They hit slowly. They hit real slowly.
They hit quite slowly, exactly. But they're also very basic. We shouldn't spend any time on them.
Yeah,
because the next one is
fuck.
So the problem with the Caretaker is that it's more of a, unlike the Dreadnoughts, more of a mission rating.
This is 100% boss as well, right? It's a boss that has
supposed to be the boss, kind of.
Yeah.
At least it was the one they put the most effort into, certainly.
Yeah, and ultimately, complete elemental nullification sucks.
Yes, it does. I was about to actually straight into the compliments because it is surprising how I don't think the Caretaker is the worst thing for that mission, and I don't think it ever was. But it's still conceptually not a great idea to make a mission around a singular boss fight for a game like Deep Rock. The fact that they did, and it could have been a lot worse considering that. I still played quite a few of them and haven't regretted it. Yeah, but it doesn't actually suck as a fight. It's just pretty repetitive. Like it's really hard because it's long and it's hard to do like dozens of times.
It's ultimately a character check and a build check more than even the Dreadnoughts were, I would say. Like the Dreadnoughts, they hated fire, but ultimately everything else went. The Caretaker doesn't doesn't respect any of Driller's primaries, and that includes any of your primaries as other characters that use elements or secondaries or whatever. It basically removes all of them. I wouldn't say the most interesting, but generally the interesting stuff you can do with weapons, and it ultimately boils down to shoot it. just that's it. Just shoot it, and the damage you do, that's it. And
the problem is, I think they decided to make it. Because they decided to make it just about where you shoot it rather than what you shoot it with, which wasn't. Which is kind of good, but it should be both, right? As in, it's good that it has like moving parts. I actually think all of that's actually pretty well done with like moving, like the vents spinning around and the like force fields that come out and all that kind of thing. And the appendages are actually okay. I find them shooting me quite annoying. That stuff's fine. The eye face is actually good with it moving around as well. I actually think it's all quite well done on that level. I just don't appreciate, the lack of ability to use status effects at all. It's just really just not good. Just not a good idea.
Considering it's like 50% of the game at this point. 50% of everyone's characters is status effects. And it's just kind of bullshit when that's not an option anymore. And yeah, I don't know. It's obviously other than Fireball. Fire's not usable against him, but
not the Caretaker. Yeah.
But it's difficult, man. It's I obviously it's not an S. Let's get that straight out of the gate. I don't think it's a D
settle
either.
For B. It's like it's B. Average tier.
I feel like we may want to bring in a new level of like, if we want to go ship to see this, where would we want them to get the idea of how good the Caretaker was, right? Like, where do you think it would go?
Well,
where do you think it should go?
If I were to say it's about halfway there, that'd be a B or a C.
Probably a B.
Yeah.
It has genuine flaws and some genuine pros, cons. Good, no, yeah.
Yeah. It's got other pros as well. Like it's actually like conceptually I like it a lot. Great design as well. The whole thing is great design. That whole the data stack, I think it's the data unit. It just sits on a giant disk. The force field around it, and then also like starting it up, and it was like it almost has expression, and then also the death animation is actually incredible. So it does have some stuff going for it as well in that department. I actually, surprisingly, I do think B is actually a good place to put it.
Yeah.
So we might have that.
All right.
Once again, see. There we are.
All right. Let's not spend more than let's do like a speed run of these three motherfuckers.
These idiots. Okay.
Those guys are, I think, more annoying than the other one. They're you try and get in, they push your way. It gets really irritating. Corners you die.
They work kind of well. What they do, fuck you. Burst turret.
B.
They're
fine.
Sniper. A.
Yeah, they're actually right.
Yeah, I like snipers. Especially if I've got something that can set them on fire. Or even not.
PC with the burning.
Whoa!
Heavy hit.
Prospector! What's he doing here? What's he doing here?
He ain't it. I think he's a C.
Whoa, man. That's pretty harsh.
He's not it. He's just not it. I don't know what to say.
I don't quite know what that means.
He's just not it. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think? Do you think he's it?
I don't really. I don't really think anything about it.
He's it.
No, I don't. I guess not.
He's like just not it.
Wow.
I cannot put it better than that. He's just not it.
All right.
Moving on. He's it.
I think this is it. I think this is it.
Is it? Yeah.
How is it though? How is it?
It's only that it. It's not like rivals are never gonna be it, right? But as far as rivals go, he's it.
He is it. He is it for them. Yeah, because it's just pretty great. I mean, some of it comes down to the very obvious things they had to do. It's like we need to make something that actually responds to you attacking it. But so many, there's so many things like that's good. Its attacks are good. I think the danger zone could be better communicated, but that's probably it. Conceptually, awesome. Execution of said concept, awesome. It's such a cool addition to like the atmosphere and just the supposed lore. He's got voice lines, man. He's got a voice.
Yeah.
He's got voice lines. He's got.
Is it?
Airstrikes you when it dies. Like actually, I think it's so fucking cool because it'll be based on where it died. So if you kill one by landing on the drop pod, you will literally get airstrike, and it's so bizarre. Really cool. I don't know, man. Nemesis is absolutely it for them. Okay, the final stretch, or the whimper that is the Curse-like enemies. But yeah, the final stretch. We're finally here. We can't. Unfortunately, it wouldn't make much sense to rush them. But we will if it makes sense on an individual level, like the larvae. For obvious reasons, better than the normal parasite, but it's still.
Yeah, I think C, right?
Kind of
D, I think at this point, looking at that, it's like why bother adding it to the game? I think the feeling of D.
Well, the larvae, the carnivorous larvae, the parasite's existence has been rendered redundant. It was something before. Now it's not. Now we've got this guy, which is the same thing, but it doesn't actually come out of them. I don't know. It's just there. It is also it's not a terrible swarmer type either. It's actually pretty unique in that sense. It doesn't fly, but it jumps.
Swarmer type exploder.
And it's not a shocker, but it does inflict the status effect, but in a different way.
Yeah.
They work pretty well. Sequel's a little bit harsh. I don't think they're bad.
No, they're ultimately a bit of a nothing sandwich. Plus, they're not great at it. They're not great, right? They jump in you, they explode, and you get no rock block status effect. You're like, what happened there then?
Okay, sure. Okay, I
mean, they could be B. Do you want B?
I think I do, because I think they actually do what they. I think they are what they are pretty okay. I don't think they really have any real major problems. Whatever.
Honestly, I think B might be a common theme here.
The rockpox.
Yeah, I genuinely think they're all fine at what they are, but I don't think what they are is that good.
I think the grunts are pretty great because I think when you get a big group of grunts, it shows what I don't know. They're just very, very satisfying to kill in a different way to normal groups of grunts. Very bizarre. I actually think they differentiate themselves sufficiently. I don't think the grunt is not the same level as the macteria spawn or a glyphic grunt, but it's not bad. And I appreciate the fact that we have them. I mean, the Wildlands really don't have grunt. Unless you can. I mean, I feel like the turrets were almost meant to be that. But Rockbook's grunt, I think he goes there. Praetorian. I don't know. This is actually really awkward now. I just realised how awkward this is because I actually don't quite know what to think.
They just don't feel like they have.
I'd rather sort of rate Rockpox as a whole or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
make more sense on that. As in the Praetorian is.
It's fine. It's just whatever. Like it's ultimately it just feels like all of the same thing, but like with slight differences. Like he is the same as the grunt, but with more blisters to pop because he's bigger and he'll do that spray. But ultimately, that spray is nothing really worth talking about. Like it just, I don't know. They all just feel like different ways of serving blisters.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think they're the older ones. They clearly kind of were the default stale ones. But with the new ones, it still kind of feels the same.
Yeah, the Spitter hasn't.
Spitter's not anything. Spitter's
not really.
Anything at
It's
all.
really not anything.
Yeah. It's
The thing is about the Spitter, it's not even really like even that close to the same priority target that the Acid Spitter is.
As far as I can tell, like I think I've only been hit by like a rockbox spitter once, and I only noticed because I thought I got hit by an acid spitter, but I actually was like alive still, and I'm like, oh, I guess I must have been hit by the rockbox spitter.
I guess it must have been that.
The only time I realized I was hit by it because I realized that I was still alive, and it was thanks to it being a rockbox spitter. So if anything, I quite like it. You know, it's taking up some.
Oh, you like
space.
it? Oh, I mean, I'd be tempted to put it lower because it's just not very anything.
No, fair. No, see, I do think it's
Praetorians, you notice. Exploders, you have to notice. They're not that effectual, but they're still exploders.
I think they might be A. I think they
same level as the grunt. Same level as the grunt. You know, because we got the normal ones in S and these ones in A. I think that's probably right. It's interesting though. The rockbox grunt, the rockbox exploder, still damages terrain, which I didn't think it would. It still explodes that way.
I mean, so far, all of the rockbox versions are like a tier below the original, except for the Estes Spitter, which is like the same.
Well, this one's definitely not below the Estes Spitter. That would be a bit unfair. I think probably the same is right. Yeah, that's fine. The bomber.
Bomber.
The glue bomber.
Yeah, it could be.
There it is. Same. Smaller picture. It could be the same as the normal one, but I don't know. Why is it a big white box?
Because it's got a big white box. Try the other one. Use the other one.
Whatever. Rockbox Glue Bomber. The thing about that one is,
it's one of the more interesting rockbox of the ones they gave us.
Kind of, but the Goo Bomber's already a similar. It's like that kind of enemy.
Yeah,
Can you kill
it really confuses me that.
I don't think it was a great choice. I think a grabber would have been far more interesting.
Yeah, and it's weird that it doesn't deactivate the weak spots because the very little we knew about the rockbox is that it did that.
Well, it does, but they don't. It doesn't, but they don't work in the same. They're not blisters. It doesn't do much if you actually destroy the original weak point.
Yeah, I know. It's why it's a bit confusing. Like, why don't they deactivate it like they did the Praetorian and then you put some on them? It's just weird why it's different.
Yeah. A loser.
Yeah, kind of a loser.
As in, it needs to differentiate itself more to be on the same level as the original version. This one feels a bit weird because this is the enemy we have encountered the least in the game. But from what I've seen, not a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately just kind of the same as the breeder, though, really, isn't it? It
is cool that it dies and explodes into a bunch of larvae. It is, but I really wish they did some kind of rockbox shockers or something. It just releasing larvae is not that interesting.
I also like the look of it. Like
it does look nice. It really does look nice, but at the same time, there's no reason to put it above the original breed, right?
Yeah, no, not above. But it's interesting that it's the same level at least. I guess it's because it essentially does the same thing. Right?
It's such breach cutter bait, man. It's just a long cylinder of blisters. It's just a long cylinder. Yeah. Beautiful.
And now, what you've all been waiting for, probably, maybe, Harold. Corruptor. I think he's probably
better. Well, there's so many. I don't know what approach to take because Harold really is a very different enemy.
Yeah,
and it's what we wanted basically. You know, it's not exactly how we envisaged the Rockbox boss originally, but it is in the sense of we were like leaning towards the fighting, and it's here and it works. You know, I can't really imagine it being done particularly better.
Yeah, it's quite specific though, isn't it? You really got to be quite accurate. which is less than convenient with how quick he can move and how awkward the terrain can be.
Very different type of fight, especially given that your actual weapons don't really matter as well. You still need to use them; they don't matter. And it's also kind of interesting in a lot of ways. It's actually a pretty cool design. I actually really like the sound design as well. And it does do the job okay of sort of being showing the rock box sort of spreading out other areas. Before this, you just didn't see Rockbox itself outside of those regions, and now you can. Yeah. It does do that job of sort of infecting the terrain and just doing that.
I mean, it then spawns parasites, right?
It does spawn parasites.
Yeah. Larvae. If only those parasites would infect the nearby wilderness, you could actually start getting up a rockbox swarm. But
I'm not gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, but ultimately, I think it's fine. I mean, it's probably just about as good as the Corlock and the Betsy, I would say.
The Corlock, yeah. I think it's a better faction boss than the kid. Well, actually, I don't know how I feel about that.
Wait, I didn't mean Caretaker.
You didn't say Caretaker. You said Betsy.
All right, good.
But Betsy, the Betsy's below it. That's actually
but only because of the reward. That's kind of what we agreed on. That ultimately it's about as good as a fight as each other, but Betsy is just not at all worth doing. Meanwhile, the Corlock is. And currently the Corruptor is very worth doing because, scripts.
Yep. And also earns its rarity, I think. Had a really easy one the other day of just it being of yesterday. That was very easy, but that was just based on the circumstances. I don't know. Good.
Yeah.
Well designed.
It's fine. I don't know. Yeah, I think B is lackluster. I think A is fine.
It's definitely lackluster. It's actually a really cool concept and fight. Yeah. Yeah. Good job. I guess.
A barrel vision seal of approval.
I think it does. I think it does. I was about to say something about how I don't know if it's a better action boss than the Caretaker or whatever, because I think the Caretaker has much more presence, fortunately.
Of course it fucking does. There's an entire room for itself.
An entire mission type for itself.
The first time we bumped into the Corruptor, it shared it with a Corlock.
Yeah, that wasn't a good look for the Corruptor, actually. You're just sharing space. You're not your own.
Kicked her ass.
Got to be your own man. Got to be your own man, Corruptor. Harold gave you a name so you could be a man.
I like how they said that when you see it in game, you won't be calling it Harold, and yet it was not. I mean,
for some people it is that. For some people it is. Yeah. A lot of people have a lot of issues with it. I saw a guy who was like, "This fucking sucks for solo players," and everyone was like, "Bro, just use Bosco." It's like, yeah, I'm aware of Bosco, but he's not good enough. I still have to run around and do stuff. I can't handle it. Oh, yes, you can.
Skill diff.
Skill diff.
I think they meant that they would look too scary or be too intimidating to call them Harold or something.
It's like a big, wavy, inflatable arm, man. It's like
man. But yeah, and now for the grand finale.
Wow.
Parasite enemies.
Maggot.
Maggot's S tier. They fucking nailed Maggot.
Parasite. Yeah. Not. Parasite. I don't even want to rank them. I really don't.
Parasite E. Fuck Parasite.
D.
Yeah. Bit of bait. We use them as, hey?
Yeah. All right. Parasite.
No, we've done that.
Stingtail. I think that's actually B.
We've done that.
Rockbox Breeder. D.
We've done them. You're confusing me.
Cave Cruiser.
It's B.
No, we're not going to rank these guys. Fuck it. We'll put the Maggot in there for fun.
The Hoarder should be in there.
Oh, fuck me.
Even though the loot bugs aren't, but...
Hoarder, maybe the Hoarder should be.
Order C tier. It's fucking annoying.
Okay.
It's so fucking taggy. Yeah.
Ah!
We did it, and it only took what, like 3 hours?
Almost 3 hours, yeah. Look, man, this is
Right.
classic barrel vision. Okay,
It
classic barrel
really
vision.
is.
So tired. That's right.
Yeah, we have not done a video this long in a while.
Oh my god. Okay, I think though I think it looks pretty good. It's hard because it's actually a lot. Like, it's most items I think we've done, except from Overclock. It's hard to really take it all in, but I think this is right. I think this is objectively correct.
Oh, objectively nice.
Yeah, yeah. So if you do disagree with us,
objectively wrong.
No, actually, please do say something. I don't know if we'll address it.
If you don't put all of your words together, pick a enemy that you think we put low that you think should be really high up and say why.
Vice versa.
And pick an enemy, that's really high up.
Oh, you're saying people should try and do both. Everyone should pick something.
No, so you should just both. Just pick one enemy that you think you disagree with on both ends, and just fight that argument hard, rather than try and fight every single one.
And we'll fight you.
Yeah, we'll do
Even if you're a woman.
outside.
I fight women.
Oh my, Harry.
I engage in mortal combat with the female race.
You don't engage in any type of physical contact with the female race.
I think I have another delivery.
Thank you all for watching. Goodbye.
I'm not sure. If you enjoyed that, no. Goodbye.